And I'm out there riding, and all of a sudden, you know, like I'm going and I'm doing laps, and there's somebody over on the shore, and there's guys like getting all rowdy and yelling, and there's a film crew, you know. So I'm like, all right, this is funky. And then I go down there, and I'm down on the dock, and it's Jamie O'Brien.
On today's episode of the Grab Matters podcast, we welcome on a very special guest, Tom Fooshee. Tom has a nickname, and it is the King of Cable. He had a reign of success when it came to cable contests, starting very early on from the mid-2000s, spanning several years there where he, you know, was the name to beat in the cable side of things. He's invented tricks, he's had video parts, he's traveled the world, and he's also dabbled in boat quite a bit. He grew up behind the boat, so we're talking about what it's like growing up in Texas, you know, skiing behind the boat, getting into wakeboarding, getting into cable, how the whole landscape and industry has changed over the years. We're also talking his transition from being a rider to what he does now, which is a TM for Liquid Force and a bunch of other stuff as well. We're diving into the debut, some other video parts. We're also talking about the Texas scene currently, kind of what happened to it over the years. And we're also diving into a bunch of Patreon questions with Tom. Really good chat with him. I had a blast sitting down with Tom Fooshee. As always, if you guys are interested in supporting the podcast, joining the Patreon is the best way to do that. I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who's on the Patreon. Your guys' support is literally what keeps this podcast going. So thank you guys so much. Without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Grab Matters podcast.
I approve waterboarding. They're talking about wakeboarding. The thing about wakeboarding, every trick is an invert.
Backside.
Air railing.
A new dimension.
Are you ready for my intro for you?
And let me go out on a limb here and say you're going to say a very special guest.
I was going to say a very special guest, but I was going to add something to it.
Oh, is this a first?
It's an insult. I was just going to hit you with an insult right
dude,
away.
Bring him. I'm good for it. Are you kidding me? I'm probably the most easily insultable person you're going to have on this show.
I like that. Okay. And me and you, we've gone back and forth for years now. So
wait, hold on. Can I stop you though? Have you and I gone back and forth, or me and that guy that's right here on this
guy,
gone back and forth?
You are correct. It's me.
Okay.
It's you and Okamon Man that have gone back and forth for a while.
There we go.
In more recent years, me, my actual person.
Actually, I don't know. This year we've been, dude. Wait, are you getting old on me?
No. What are you talking about?
I feel like we've.
Am I getting old on you?
We haven't had any banter at all this year, actually.
Yeah, you're right. I've been a little busy.
We've been.
And Utah sucks. Utah football sucks. So it's like I just have nothing. I have no ground to stand on.
Hey, I just
what I
wanted
mean?
proof of you saying that. Ultimately,
They do suck.
And
I'll include this in. I mean, we already did the intro, but the intro I was going to do is we now welcome on a very special guest, Tom Fooshee. You might know him from that famous part in the debut that we all skipped. But it was at the end, so you didn't even have to skip it. I'm kidding, obviously. I actually did rewatch it last night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and stand you back here. Well, you said at the end, so you're obviously way off because it was actually the opener.
You are so wrong. It's ending part. Your part in the debut, not impact.
See, I'm still on there. There we go.
For the listeners, he was actually just looking through the impact DVD.
Gotcha.
So he almost got me with a got me, but he didn't get me.
No, I told you, you're going to find a lot to insult me on right now.
So, I mean, we'll talk about the debut because there's a lot that I want to break down in that video. Because obviously having an ender part in, like, I would say one of the best, if not the best, cable film ever made, I think, in my opinion. I haven't seen everything out there. You probably have, I would assume, right?
Yeah, I mean, man, obviously Andy is a master of his art for sure. Everything that went into it too, but you know, there is a lot of backstory too, like with Andy on a lot of it. I know for a fact anything that was filmed in America should have actually have had a whole nother part. So, you know, like mine, for example, and I'm pretty sure it would probably be the same for some of the others, was only halfway done. And, you know, it's not my, I don't know, it's not my area or whatever to necessarily discuss somebody else's business.
Sure.
But Andy obviously had some issues coming back to the country a second time. So the first time was like, hey, man, we're going to marathon it. Like, we're going to go to every park in Texas. We're just going to show up. Obviously, I had contacted all these people, but we're going to show up and we're just going to try to, like, grind out, you know, as much as we can while we're there. Andy's going to leave. There was a park being built right up the road from me that we had plans. I'd worked with Andy, the manager of the park at the time, that we were going to build all this different stuff. Well, Andy had some issues coming back, so we nixed it. So essentially, I mean, by all means, like I love my part. This is not a complaint, but
well, it just could have been more.
It was exactly that. Well, the plan was originally that was going to be more. It wasn't just going to be your traditional like park riding.
Yeah.
You know, we were supposed to have some builds, you know, or some hacks and so on. So, but regardless, like I think that's why I am happy with it, though, is because Andy, and this is what I always believe with not just videographers, this is a lot of photographers, especially in our sport, is when they make you look better than you actually even feel,
They got some skill.
And that's what I always have given props, to Rod, to Garrett, to just all these different guys. Letchworth, I mean, man, they're phenomenal. And Andy Kolb was one of those. For sure, is like I have a picture in my mind of what I just did, and then when I go back and look at it on the screen, I'm like, oh, dude, unreal, unreal. Like you just made me look better than possibly I really am.
Yeah, which is, I mean, the highest of compliments you can give to anybody. That's interesting that you said that, though, because I was rewatching that part last night, and it almost seemed a little short. It was like, not that it left something to be desired, but that it makes a lot of sense now the way you're saying that there was supposed to be a little bit more to it.
Yeah.
Just rewatching. I mean, good part, obviously, but that's some good insight. I didn't know that.
We shot for, that was 3.5 weeks with travel time. We had just like any day, like there were down days whenever, it was too rainy or cold or whatever. There was all that type of stuff, but like, man, essentially we shot every single day. And a funny one actually was there was one day we were just trying to get like one shot. It was kind of like I wouldn't call it like a B-roll shot or anything, but anyways, we're at TSR and it's like fully open to the public. And we're just trying to get, again, we're looking for this clip that's like half a second long or whatever. And I'm out there riding, and all of a sudden, like I'm going and I'm doing laps, and there's somebody over on the shore, and there's guys like getting all rowdy and yelling, and there's a film crew, so I'm like, all right, this is funky. And then I go down there and I'm down on the dock, and it's Jamie O'Brien. And he was on this road trip, like, from California to Florida or vice versa. And yeah, he was sitting there, down on the dock, and I just got to, started, chatting it up with him or whatever. And I'm like, hey man, we got this little like standing river wave that's like 10 minutes from here where I went to uni at. And he's like, really? Tells me, it was him and Poopsies, and they're road tripping. And I'm like, yeah, you guys want to go up and go do it? So sure enough, we went up there like 10 minutes up the road, like cut our session, went up there, brought him to this little river wave. And this is back when, this is like season 2 of Who is J.O.B. Went up there and hit this little wave with him. And it was, what's even funnier is, like I ride these like little, back at the time, these little like custom skimboard, like little custom wake surfers. Like, and you had to get like something really small in this thing, this little tiny river wave. And, he's down there with like his full on shortboard. And I'm like kind of sitting over there, and I'm like, I can't tell him like, this wave is really small. You shouldn't ride your stuff, at the same time. I'm like, cause I hit this thing all the time. Like when I was in college. So I sat there all reserved. Finally, I'm like, hey man, J.O.B., you think, you should try one of these, just it was so weird. Cause I'm like, this dude knows what he's doing. I have no business telling him.
It'd be like him telling you like, hey, you want to try this wakeboard? Like,
exactly. So, he's trying to paddle in on this thing. I could see he was struggling. And finally I'm like, all right, man, take this thing. So yeah, if you dig deep enough, you'll be able to find this.
And this is obviously pre-surf pool at BSR. So these guys were they weren't going there for surfing. They were, they were swinging through for whatever reason.
Like I said, they were on a road trip, but this is 2013, I think it was. So yeah, if we dropped debut in 2014, so yeah, the whole year of 2013. So yeah, that's well before any of that. It was literally just a road trip. They saw, I don't know, like Google TSR's, 10 minutes, not even or 20 minutes from I-10, which is, LA to Jacksonville. So, I think those guys probably saw Water Park or whatever,
Check it out.
Look up and they're like, let's hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he wakeboard at all or no?
Yeah. No, actually,
he did?
dude, yeah, him. And the crazy thing is they hopped on and it was like not even 5 laps in, they're hitting boxes. Like, like it was one of those things like, again, like when you can look at an athlete and know, one, like he's a waterman, two, but like, athletes of that capability, like, they have a little bit less level of fear. And clearly you could definitely see that with that whole crew, man. Like they were there was no hesitation on any of it. And they're laughing, whether they fall, pull everything off. Like it was good vibes, man. And like super friendly, like super down to earth.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I guess, he's looking at all this flat water. He's like, there's not a wave that's going to pummel me and bury me for 2 minutes. Like, I'm all right.
Yeah, exactly, man. So it was cool. So yeah, a little thing there for
that's
debut.
cool. And we'll dive into the debut, obviously, a little bit more in detail later. But we do have first couple questions, which you may or may not know. Number 1, Wakepants. What do you think?
Oh man. So, I got just like anything. Let me try to keep this brief. First off, yes.
Okay.
But one, not on me whatsoever.
I like that answer.
Not on me. And I've actually only worn wake pants one time in my life, and there's no way. There are photos of it from my first ever sponsorship that I had. This is back in like 2001. Anyways, they made wake pants because that was like a thing. There were like many of knockoffs.
Really?
Of like what Jet Pilot. Like there were tons of them. And I'm talking brands you couldn't even find anything about these on the internet. But anyways, yeah, not on me. And the old part of me sits there and says, like, man, when I watch somebody like Tobias, I'm like the swaggiest of the swaggiest. Looks great. Like Wes, all those dudes pull it off. And I actually got to give Wes props on his response for it because he's like, man, it's something I would say. Like the functionality of it's not there.
Yeah.
But man, the way it looks on the right guys, his choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. That's a good answer. You only ever worn them once.
Yeah. Not on me.
Favorite grab?
Oh, man. I'm right in line with Ben Greenwood. A regular mute. Not a switch mute, which is an indie.
Yep.
A regular mute. And same thing, not on me. I actually struggle with that one. It's probably actually one of my most difficult grabs. But when I look at the right guy that does it, and I got to go shout out to my old buddy Gabe Lucas, would do the nastiest mute Pete. Regular mute Pete, like. And that's a lot more difficult than you think if you're somebody that struggles with like your natural front hand grab.
Yeah.
But yeah, a regular mute grab done right. And like Daniel back in the day would do mute grab S-mobs off the flats on the cable that were insane looking too. So like when it's done right,
yeah,
it looks really good. And it's a lot more difficult than I think most people think.
Well, dude, I think the mute grab on a wakeboard is like a lot more difficult than people give it credit for. Like a good mute. Obviously you can like grab and tap and like whatever, but like actually a good grab kind of poke, tweak mute, you don't see them. Like
not a switch mute.
Not a switch mute,
Exactly.
a straight up
regular
mute.
I got to be clear on that one for sure. Because I mean, everybody and their dog
difference.
can switch mute all day
Yeah,
or switch nose,
Yeah. Especially if you do it with 180, it's like that's the easiest thing ever. So
for sure.
All right, let's dive back to the early days because you're a Texas guy, right? So I mean, for the listeners, it's pretty obvious. He's got a Texas jersey on and a Texas hat, so he's a Texas guy. But so you grew up in Texas, yeah?
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Austin. Like I was telling you over here, it's like my favorite spot. And anybody that's probably been through the state will definitely always give the Hill Country a shout out. But one of the things that I really love about being there is my original home lake is a birthplace of wakeboarding. Lake Austin, man. That's where my guy, my boss, Jimmy Redmond, created his red line design while he was a UT student.
I didn't know he went there. University of Texas, for those who don't know.
The real UT. Anyways, so, my home spot, man, like it was just even more fitting. And there was a lot of riders that came out of there, maybe not like a ton that majority of the listeners might know, but, like for guys that were like way back in the day, the Billy Norse, the Matt Lockwoods, like there was always a scene there, so Lake Austin has always had its place in our sport for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big lake, right, too? It's huge.
No, actually, so, I mean, the general rule of thumb is you can fool a Texan into thinking a lake is a lake by just damming up a river and putting the letters L-A-K-E in front of a name.
Yep.
Because there's actually only one true lake in our state.
Really?
It's Caddo Lake in East Texas. Yeah, everything else is a dammed up section of a river. In Lake Austin, of course, like, man, it is a river. Yeah. Like you go and look at it, it's not like super wide open or anything, so like it winds, everything about it looks like a river. So the big thing that's like popular about it though is like, when you think, especially like somewhere like up north or so many places, like if you got a lake house, you're going to the lake, you got to drive outside of the city. Lake Austin, you can be from downtown, if you were to hit every light green, 6-7 minutes, 5 minutes, water to like downtown.
Really?
Skyscraper. Yeah. So it's right in the middle of the city in one portion, again, it's 22 miles long, windy, so it goes everywhere. But yeah, so it's very metropolis.
So did you grow up on Lake Austin then?
No, I did not. So I'm from like North Austin, but my dad used to, in exchange, he would mow this lady that lived on the lake. He would mow her lawn in exchange for my uncle to keep his old ski nautique at her dock. And that's how like we were able to like at least like leisurely ski.
Yeah.
We had always known friends that were out at like the private, because there's a couple private water ski communities in Austin, but yeah, that was how we kind of got into that whole thing as far as Lake Austin goes. So, you know, it was like props to my dad, you know, like finding every avenue to make this whole thing work, you know, even though financially it couldn't make it work. It was just like, hey, I'm going to work my tail off, you know, on the weekends and go do some work for this lady, for somebody, even though it was family, to have a boat, to put in a slip for us to use.
Yeah.
And that's honestly like how it graduated too. Cause like we ended up purchasing like in Lake Austin, you could just buy just a dock. Like, I'm not kidding. Like when I say a dock, like something that's like 1,500 square footage of property. And it's literally just just something you store your boat, like a boathouse.
Yeah.
Just that is, you could buy those. So we ended up finding one of those one day that my grandparents, my uncle, and both my uncles and my parents went in and bought in on it. And it was funny, same thing. They, you know, took 4 partners on it. We had a friend that had a Malibu. In exchange, we let him keep it there if he let us use it.
Good deal.
So like I honestly never had a boat until I rode for Axis.
I do remember you saying that to me. We were talking like 6 months ago. But okay, so you started skiing, water skiing.
Yeah, you got to remember, man, we're talking the 80s.
80s, baby.
Yeah, it's a great time to be alive.
So you started water skiing in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
This is pre-wakeboarding.
Yeah, so my dad, I mean, literally, man, it's I see it within myself. Like my dad, when I was a little bitty kid, we have photos of like my brother, you know, it's 6 years old, water skiing, and like my dad's got a handle between his legs skiing, and I'm sitting on top of his shoulders. Like it was like water from the get-go. And so 4 years old, man, that was when I learned to water ski, and this is like proper water ski, you know, no skis, no like attachment between them, no handle that goes on it. It was like normal with that. And if you know Lake Austin, man, that's cold water. So like it's tough to like teach a little bitty kid, 'cause, you know, when you get in cold water, you're just shivering.
As a kid too.
Yeah, you're just shivering. So yeah, 4 years old, man, learned to water ski, and you know, rode that for a while. So that was 1988. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So you're water skiing. You're not like doing contests as you progress in water skiing. It's just a leisure activity.
No, man. I did the 3 event. Yeah, man. That's
Big
why
three
do you think Dano and I are good guys? We're like,
Okay.
we're tight. No, I did it all. Obviously, like, I think it's very apparent if I had to ask you between the 3, which one is the one I'm the worst at? Come on, take a guess.
Slalom?
Yes, absolutely. All 5'5" of me was never going to let that one happen. It was terrible at it. I didn't really enjoy slalom too much, but like trick skiing and jumping was like my deal. And like I had learned to wakeboard, but I learned to wakeboard on that thing right there.
Scurfer.
Yeah, and absolutely hated it. And
Really?
if you know, it's because like, well, those things are pretty easy to dock start on, but to deep water start, because they're like so buoyant,
I've never tried.
they're really difficult because they just want to sit up.
Yeah.
You know, so like you get up, and I mean, same thing, you know, there's like not much of a rail on it, so it's really hard to like edge around.
Soft, yeah.
Yeah, I just like wasn't into it. So I remember in 1994, man, literally we were at a private water ski lake, and somebody had a Flight 69 right here, busted it out, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'll give it a go. Bam. Like that day on, converted immediately.
Really?
I was like, this is it. Because it was like trick skiing, but 10 times better. It was like I didn't have to work so hard. And that's no hate on trick skiing, man. Like, actually, I've tricked this year. You know, like I'm still all about it. But it just like you just didn't have to work as hard to get as much.
Got surface area. Yeah.
And it's same thing too, man. Like, honestly, for me, you know, and coming from like a traditional sports background, you're always taught to do things like one way, you know, and that's kind of essentially how it is with water skiing. And same thing, like I'll give, man, if you've slalomed, like you got to be conditioned. Like that shit is, I mean, you're going to be left sore. And if you're not left sore, it's because you do it every day. It shit's hard.
Yeah, and your body positioning to start, I guarantee, is going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No. And I did all that stuff, man. And same thing, like, and same thing, trick skiing's difficult too. So like, don't ever let anybody try to tell you that water skiing, at least is like trying to get better and better at it. I mean, just like anything, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's hard. Right. But, I just really started to enjoy, like when I was in middle school, of like being able to do something and not being like, you need to do it this way. You know, when you play football or baseball or track, you got to have this exact form, or, you know, like you're told there's one way to do something. And I finally had like found my thing where it was like, there's not a certain way to do it.
Yeah.
And that was a big like mental aspect of it.
You liked that
like,
part of it?
Yeah.
The no rules kind of thing?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that it was like everything that you think you know, you can also throw that out, like do your own thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the same thing like trick skiing, you know, you got 20 seconds and you're just like hitting it hard. And wakeboarding was like, it was much more cash, you know, when it came to it. So, you know, your pass was, even back then, you know, you didn't have, it wasn't like today where it's like 4 tricks down, 4 tricks back. You had all as much time, but you weren't rushing it as much.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like giving time to actually like properly set up, do your own thing, put your own taste to it. So that was a big thing for me.
You like that part of the wakeboarding. Okay, so I want to get into football, though, because you did play football growing up, right?
And I mean, I was good at it, but yeah, I played. I played.
Okay, so I mean, I guess in 1994, how old are you at this point?
94, I'm 10 years old.
10 years old.
So I hadn't started football yet. I didn't start until middle school, 7th grade. That's when you can officially start. Like you can do Little League and stuff like that.
Sure,
but
yeah.
It doesn't really
school
do
football.
much for you.
Yeah. Okay, so you get into football, and from my understanding, you take it pretty seriously, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, and I wasn't as short in middle school. I was still a little shorter, but, you know, like when everybody hit that growth spurt at like high school, yeah, I hit mine, but it just didn't go up as much.
It didn't
you
take
know?
as well.
So there was partially that, you know, but like honestly, and not trying to like talk myself up, but at least as far as my size go, like because I was wakeboarding and water skiing, I was definitely stronger. I was one of those ones that was like really strong for my size. So I was able to play, and, you know, I was able to play a lot and actually, you know, I wasn't the short guy, you know, that just sat on the sidelines, you know, so that obviously helped. And I don't want to say I was good at it by any means, but the fact that I always, you know, I was a starter and all that just like made me like run with it, you know, and I had a lot of fun with it too. I mean, it's drastically different. It's a great way if you're down to be aggressive, man, like it's a great avenue for you. But, yeah, you know, but that, I think it was doing both because I had my football thing, and none of my friends in high school or grade school, none of them wakeboarded. That was a full thing I just did because we were out on Lake Austin all the time, essentially. Yeah. But, you know, I had my one sport, you know, because I did track and field too and like all that stuff. But like I had my sports where it was just like, all right, you do it this way. And then I also had my other thing. It was like do my own thing. So the combination of them both, like as weird as it sounds, kind of offset, like made me, it was like harmony in a sense.
Well, they're very different. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I'm okay with this coach yelling at me because I'm doing something the wrong way. Instead of that just being my only thing, I can release it over here by doing my own thing. So it was, I don't have a problem. I didn't have a problem being told what to do because of that.
That's really interesting to hear about because I've never thought about that dynamic before.
Yeah.
Of having both.
Yeah. It was just, like I said, to offset, to balance each other out, you know, and believe me, I got ripped a lot in football. I got ripped. And you know what? I got one in particular, and this is like almost like your typical Texas story. My biggest reason for not screwing up, for like not, you know, for not like blowing coverages or something, because I was a safety, was I had one of our coaches, he was one of those guys that had a full lower and upper decker in all the time. Just full, you know.
Buzzing like a bumblebee,
just
dude.
On all the time. And every time you screwed up, he'd grab you by the face mask, get in your face, and just like chew you out. And then you'd pull off your helmet and you just have dip spit all over your face. And that was your initiative right there to not screw up.
Fucking disgusting.
Yeah,
dude.
it was. It was, man. And you just go over to like the little water station that just looks like a bunch of cow udders, and you're just spraying this thing, like just trying to hose your face down to get all this off. But, old Coach Rudd, man. And I got chewed out a lot.
Yeah, a dip spit in the face.
Yeah, I did, man. Didn't matter if it was practice or a game.
You're getting the dip spit.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to wakeboarding though. Late 90s is probably when you're getting older, getting into it. Are you doing wakeboard contests at this time? Early 2000s? Like, what's that looking like on the boat side of things?
No, actually, man, I didn't really compete much in wakeboarding till probably 2000.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, you know, and like, because I competed in water skiing, but the weird thing was that, you know, as weird as it sounds, there wasn't a ton of wakeboard contests. Like, I think Hype used to come through and run like a every weekend, you know, it's a different city in America tour, but that was about it. there was a pro tour that would come through. That was the water ski and wakeboard pro tour. And of course I was there front row for all this stuff, but I never got into contest, honestly, till after I graduated high school.
Yeah, there was like no junior scene or whatever. Just to
there was, but man, it was just like I was doing the whole high school football thing, like obviously everything that goes with that, like obviously lifting weights and everything else that went with that, and and I was always, and still to the day, like very education focused. Like that was also a major priority. So.
Football player that's education focused?
Well, I mean, I was an education major too.
You really were education focused. Okay.
Yeah, no, I got my Texas teaching certificate, man. You bring your kid to to Texas, they technically can take. I can teach kindergarten through 12th. I'm all level in PE and history.
Really?
Yeah, that was what I went to school for.
Okay.
Never used it though. After I did my student teaching, I was like, I'm out. I'm going wakeboarding. That was it. But anyhow, yeah, no contest actually, man. I really didn't do them all till I started going down to TSR, which opened in 2002.
Okay.
They were doing boat and cable, so
that's a perfect transition because I mean, obviously you've been known as the king of cable. You've had a long, fruitful career on the cable side of things, but obviously you started on the boat, skiing, and then wakeboarding. So 2002, TSR opens. How do you hear about this? I mean, what's it like going to the cable for the first time?
All right, so man, I'm probably going to give more shout outs than anybody that's ever been on this show. There's going to be some name dropping for sure, but one of my all-time, one of my great best friends, Blake Hess, his wife actually, her parents and my parents were good friends. Well, he was a partner in Texas Ski Ranch, and they opened in 2002. I actually went down there the first weekend that they were open. They had not done a grand opening yet. And to give you an idea of concept, they had the cable, and I didn't even know what a cable was. I saw an article one time in 99 in Water Ski Magazine of OWC, and all I did was just see it, flip to the next page. That was just not my thing.
Yeah.
And I just knew that Blake was opening this place, and, his wife, they were great people. Like, hey, me and my friend, I had a good friend, Keith, that was much older than me. He was one that I would go out with on the weekends to go wakeboarding. He would always take me out, and he was cool, man. Like, he was just my other water ski friend, essentially, that was really into wakeboarding. So him and I are like, yeah, let's go check out this place that Blake opened. And it's nothing but a mud hole of water and 5 trailers. That's it. And which is wild because, and this is props to TSR, because you look at it today and you got this big, massive building. They're one of the best parks in America as far as infrastructure goes, it's very, there's all this stuff.
Dialed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they were building a skate park at that time, and that's it. And I went down there. They had a rave slider, if you know what that is. You don't know what rave sliders are?
Rave, like the company Rave?
Yes.
Yeah.
The little inflatable ones.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're dangerous too, because you get on them since they're inflatable. You could catch an edge while sliding because it would sink. Yeah. Awful. So they had that, and they had a jump ramp, like a water ski jump ramp.
Really?
And they were putting it in the boat lake, but it was in there for the first year just to have an extra feature. You didn't have to wear a helmet unless you were hitting those. But I went down there, honestly, air tricked, my first go, but it was just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Did not do it for me. I didn't come back till the next year. And what was cool, and this was kind of common back then, and man, I wish this still occurred, but we had a team at TSR. And you had to apply for it too. It was kind of cool. And they had a boat team and a cable team and a wake skate team. And I actually applied to be on the boat team. And part of what you got was you got a membership to ride cable, and you got I don't know, it was a boat, 3 boat sets a week or something like that. I actually ended up never getting that because I got a job there. So I ended up offsetting it. But yeah, so I applied for this thing, and I'm all right, this is cool. And at this time, I guess I'm kind of hopping around here. To even back it up, after football was done when I was a senior, it was what's the next move?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to do, like most people or whatever. So I was all right, I'm going to go to community college because I have no idea what I'm going to do. All I know how to do is I like wakeboarding for fun. And yeah, things were going well with that. But yeah, and then when I got that job running summer camp at TSR, that's when I completely decided I'm going to go to this university, the Texas State University, strictly because of Texas Ski Ranch. Honestly, one of the best moves I could have made.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I don't know how many people actually choose a university just because of a landmark that's by it, having nothing to do with the school. Well, the school was amazing, but yeah. So I made that team. Blake took me on the team as part of the boat team. I got my cable pass, and then I got a job there, and that was just when everything that was when the big switch flipped.
Okay.
Like, man, I started just learning stuff left and right. Like, that was probably one of the biggest things that inhibited me to, like, just really, really take things from just being, this guy's good at wakeboarding, to be like, okay, we might have something now.
You're taking it very seriously now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in college, Texas State, and you're going to, you're working at TSR. Did they get features at this point, or is it still pretty much an open lake?
No, they had... So the owner, Paul Bialik, he also owned a bunch of Burger King. So he had gotten Burger King to sponsor a rail. So we had like this like little rainbow thing called the Whopper rail.
Oh, that's so sick.
It was amazing, dude. I mean, funny thing is, this thing made it onto the boat lake and the cable lake. But yeah, it was all tagged up with Burger King or whatever. So we had that. We had we had this one that was just like 8 PVC pipes where like, each diameter is like 3 or 4 inches. It's just like, kind of a rainbow. I mean, or a flat bar, but like it's kind of banked. I mean, it was unique, but man, PVC slid great.
Oh yeah.
PVC slid great. So we had that, and that was it until we built a Trex A-frame. And that was pretty big too, but like it was okay. And then when we decided we were going to make it a transfer box, that's when TSR, I would say, officially went from going from being like a cable park with a couple of features to, all right, now we're going to turn this place into a rail park.
Yeah.
And Blake Hess, being the manager at the time, man, the dude was phenomenal. He was about like, if it's a good idea, you guys can do it. If it's safe enough for the public, if it's not safe enough for the public, you can still do it. You just got to clean everything up and be ready. So like we had free reign. Blake was phenomenal. He gave us a lot of reign at TSR to do what we wanted. We just had like a set time that was like, from this time to that time. And it didn't matter if you wanted to do it at night, flip the lights on, man. Like Blake would go to bat for all of us all the time. We didn't have to sell him on anything. His thing was just like Monday morning at 9 a.m. when the cable opens.
Better be clean.
It's got to be out of there.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys do. I don't care how sketchy it is. And you got to wear a helmet.
Okay.
That was his
Fair
other
enough.
thing.
Yeah.
Those two things. I got to keep the insurance happy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
What a sick manager.
Yeah, Blake was the man, and he's nowadays, man. I mean, he's surf park developer. I mean, everybody. I would definitely say if you're in tune with cable, Blake Hess, you definitely know him, man.
That name's been tossed around. Yeah,
he definitely has. Him, Mike Olson, like those guys, like absolute legends.
Yeah,
in the cable game for a long time. As far as America goes, obviously globally,
American landscape. Yeah,
but yeah, and those guys have done a lot for our sport that most people don't realize. Mike has too. Yeah. Mike has done a lot, especially in Kansas. Not only with like what he built there, but like Mike did a lot of like passion stuff too. I mean, KCW had a winch park at one point.
Really?
Yeah, I was hoping Mike was going to talk about it when he came on here. I know. He had literally a winch park. He had like 4 rails that were strictly just for winching, like back behind Tower 4.
I did not know that.
Maybe it's Tower 5. Yeah, or in between 4 and 5. Yeah, he had it back there. Yeah, it was cool. And they were like good rails too.
Core score going up there, Mike Olson.
Yeah.
It's pretty high as it is. But okay, so let's talk about competing. So obviously, the switch flips and you're working there, you're riding a ton, you're kind of figuring out the cable thing. When do you discover where competitions are for the cable side of things and start entering?
And this is another reason like why TSR was such a catalyst. So obviously if you can't tell, like I'm naturally competitive, I mean, again, like growing up doing all sorts of team sports, all this stuff to wakeboarding. So they would do Thursday nights, they would have their Thursday night showdowns. And for like all month of June, they would be boat. All month of July, they'd be cable. So I was hitting those June ones because they were boat. And then it was like, all right, I got this cable pass. Like, I'll ride in advance, and it was like, it was fun. It was cool, and I would get, second, third place in advance. And I'm like, this is cool, whatever. Well, what really changed it for me is I started figuring out hitting a kicker is similar to hitting a boat wake. So when I have unlimited time at the cable, I can learn, whatever trick off this kicker, take it to the boat, right? Well, again, that's why everything started clicking so well, because I was doing that. That's why they were complimenting each other or whatever. So I'm doing that, And I started doing their cable contests, their Thursday night ones, and then TSR would also do 3 cash prize events. They would have their freeze ride, which is in February, and it was always freeze ride. Like there was one year we had snow, which is pretty rare for Texas, like on the dock. Cable stock, I would say, was always their biggest, and that was also, I would call it the premier full-size park event, maybe in America, maybe the premier full-size park event ever in America. Anyways, there was that, and then they did like their final showdown, which was a big boat event that they also had cable at too. So essentially I was getting into these because I was like, all right, I'm learning all this stuff and I'm getting my competitive experience, and then I go and compete at their cash prize events, make a little bit of money on this stuff, So it was like, all right, once I started making a little bit of money, it was like, man, all right, what's the next step? So I did my fair share. I tried a couple of PWTs, of course, went out first round. Just like most rookies, PWT, I clipped that transfer box one time.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. If you were somebody that had to go through day one qualifying at the PWT and you didn't have the ability to hit that transfer box, every one of you guys out there listening that did that, you clipped that transfer box at one point. You smashed the nose of a board.
Tap to taco situation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I did it. Luckily, it was only one time. And, here I am coming into it with like all this confidence. Yeah, right, park. I know how to hit them. I know how to transfer. No, I got put in check real quick. It'll humble you. And I would tell you, most people don't know too. You're moving faster, but that transfer box is actually like a fairly high step up.
Yeah.
To go
when you're behind a boat pole too.
Yeah. So, you can't be very close to it. That's one of those ones, like the further away from it when you're hitting the ramp, the better. And that thing actually, if you still want to hit it, I think it's the core. It's at the core.
It's at the core. Yeah. It is. I have hit it before. Yeah.
It's been modified a couple times, a bit safer now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
she's big. She's big though.
That'll give you an idea.
Okay. So, what are we looking at cable contest wise outside of TSR? Like what's the next step after TSR competitions?
So there was just that. Yeah. And it was like boat. I was doing the PWT. What was cool about back in the day, and this was particularly boat, it was not cable though. Like there were a lot of boat contests, like regional boat contests that you could go and make money. And this is what was amazing about wakeboarding. Yeah, like, all the big guys are hitting PWT and Wakeboard World Series and all this stuff, but every weekend there is like a stop for the Texas Wakeboard Tour, or there's a DallasWakeboarding.com stop, or there's a Waketoberfest stop. There's just like, think of like Wakefest, but there was one of those every weekend, not just in your state, but in almost like any state that had wakeboarding. I mean, HoustonWakeboarding.com or Houston Wakeboarding or H-Town Wakeboarding had one too. It was like, so I was going around and just like making, anywhere from 500 to like $2,000 a weekend, just hitting this like regional. It was like a pro-am.
Yeah,
is what I would call it. It was so rad. And of course, like, when I say this, like you would get a couple like bigger names. I mean, at the time, of course, like all the Texas Wakeboard Tour stops would have like Joey Arches, or Chris Ramirez, like one of the somewhat like bigger name dudes, or like, like Waketoberfest come in town. Ricky G would always come to that, or somebody like that. There was always like at least 1 or 2 or 3 bigger names that would come in. So it was kind of cool too, because it's like you and all your buddies competing, but you also get like,
against the real deal,
yeah, the real deal in there to kind of test you with that. And, of course, too, it's like anytime you do these events like that on public lakes, you're not getting the best conditions too. So, you're actually like your ability to win something kind of goes up because, it's a wild
anything
card.
Can happen.
Yeah. That's why I kind of also love double up competitions, as you on public lakes. Like it's almost like every man for himself. The odds aren't the same.
Yeah, it's not as predictable. It's good.
Yeah. So anyways, it was cool, man. Like I was going around like during the summer, and I remember, this is like really funny. I remember fall of 2006. I had just won. Lidberg came into town. We did that fall festival or final showdown event, and I just won cable and boat actually on that. And I had $4,000 in my account, and I told TSR, I said, I think I'm gonna chill on operating the cable, man. I think I can make rent. I just paid my truck off. I'd chill. And actually that was the last time I worked, worked in wakeboarding as far as like running the cable or something.
Yeah.
So I was going to college, pursuing this wakeboard thing, and I was running the cable at TSR. Actually, I did everything when I was working at TSR. I started working their camp. Then I went to working in the board shop, selling boards. Then I went to also running the cable and working in the rental room, like checking people out for their rental passes and putting them on boards. But my last job there was operating the cable. I remember I had $4,000 of my own money. I'm just like, this is insane. You know, rent was $250. You know,
like,
it was
I can pay that for a year
it was,
and a half.
It was awesome. You know, so like I remember telling Blake, I was like, hey man, you know, it's fall time. I know our hours are getting cut back anyways, but you can just take me off the schedule. And it was wild. And I think the next month I turned around and went to CWC.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was like, that one came completely unexpected too.
What year was this that you went to CWC?
06. So it was a year it opened.
Okay.
Yeah. And I went to Surf Expo, and it was just funny because it was also like my first Surf Expo, you know, and Matt Hickman was the editor at the time. He had told me, because Matt was like, you know, Matt was the guy. This is back during the recession. So, you know, Matt Hickman was like ahead of his time. And he was, like I said, the editor of Wakeboarding Magazine. And Matt's another one of those guys too that, like, man, he went to bat for me. He did a lot for me. But Matt had recognized, he's like, hey man, you know, things are slowing down boat sale wise. We're trying to keep wakeboarding, you know, like in the limelight. This cable thing's like an affordable way to do it. And he's like, Europe, you know, and that was when Matt, you know, had definitely gotten exposed to Europe and saw everything that was going on there. So he was like, all right, you know, so he started like running a lot of coverage in Wakeboarding Magazine of cable, which, you know, at the time there wasn't very many of us doing it. So I got a lot of press on it. So yeah, it was that. And I went to Surf Expo, and he's like, hey man, he saw me do a Pete 5 off a kicker. And he's like, you know, he was like mind blown by it, you know? So he's like, I'm going to put it in the trick of the year reel. He's like, you got to come. So I went, you know, and it was also like, I was riding for O'Brien at the time. So I was like, all right, man, this is also my chance to like go meet with the folks at O'Brien, try to get myself an upgrade, you know? So I went there for that. And part of that was I met Gov Elray there and went out to eat with him too. Yeah, he was there.
Wow.
He was there. So that was like where all that came full circle. Went out to eat with him, and I luckily had like Matt Hickman. I had a couple of other guys, Lou Lee, that were on my back, Danielle Crawford, like a bunch of them that were just like, I swear, he might not look like it, he might not talk like it, there might be, but he's the real deal. You gotta get this kid out there. You gotta get this kid out there. And I actually went out there. Dude, I was in the middle of school, like went and had to talk to all my professors and was like, hey, I got this opportunity to go to the Philippines. I left for only like 5 days or something like that. It was like left on a Wednesday, came back on a Monday. Yeah, went all the way over there. It rained the entire time, and I filmed a part over there that went online. I don't even know if you can find this thing. And it was one of those like went viral for me before there was viral. Yeah. As far as weight goes.
Popped off.
Yeah, it went off, you know, and it was like, I mean, at the time it was like primarily like, actually, excuse me, everything that you see in Statement 1.5, essentially, because that was when I filmed that too. This was like done without the production value, we'll just say.
Interesting.
So, yeah. It was a lot, man. It was a busy one. It was like a real monumental like turn for me. It was also the time when I knew it was like, all right, time to look for a new board sponsor.
Okay, so I want to talk about that because you were on O'Brien. You weren't getting paid at this point? Just getting gear?
No, they weren't paying me. They had helped me out with a couple of things, you know, like here and there. They were good. I mean, you know, like I was riding cable, and of course, like I'm breaking boards. And I'll put it this way, another time frame. You got to talk, you know, we're talking 04, 05. So I'm riding park, and metal fins were big back then. And you got to realize I'm one of the few guys that's like just hitting park every time, right? And I'm trying to like press out like a back tail on metal fins. You imagine how that goes. So, you know, like I actually look back at it and I'm like, I had phenomenal like board awareness, because it was like I knew exactly how far I could get on my tail before those things would catch. So anyways, they were making me like custom, you know, grind base boards and stuff like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they were definitely respecting. Yeah. Justin Kiefer, who is actually our South Central regional sales manager for LF, he was the O'Brien rep at the time. And when I was in high school, I worked at a pro shop, a boat dealership, just selling wakeboards and stuff. And like as soon as I got that job, he had heard that I was decent at wakeboarding. He's like, well, dude works in a shop, he wakeboards, like, let's get him hooked up. So he was taking care of me. He was actually he gave me some water skis too. Again, I'm bouncing around a lot, but going back to high school, yeah, he gave me some water skis too, got me wakeboards, and man, I rode for him for 4 years, and he like same thing. He went all out for me. Anything like he was awesome. We'd always do it. I went and worked boat shows for him, did all sorts of stuff. So and same thing when it came time for me to like try to get a promotion, we'll say at O'Brien, like he was just in their ear all the time. And I remember sitting down at Expo and, meeting the guys there, and it was a little bit of a heart crusher. He goes, "Hey man, fully aware of everything you're doing, like respect to you, like awesome, this is good, but I want to let you know we make all of our money in combo skis and tubes." And my heart just crushed. And this was a team manager that's no longer there, of course, but it just like everything that I had in my mind about, hey, here's what I would like to do for next year. It just like my heart sunk, So yeah, that was kind of my sign. I needed to look elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and let me just back up too. This is no hate on them, because actually they entertained everything that I was talking to them about. That it just changed my whole mindset. Like
well, yeah, it's not a board brand. They obviously are not a board brand. They just said that.
Yes, but man, believe it or not, like Chris Johnson, their shaper, legend. Like this guy was contacting me on his own, in his own free time, just being like, "Hey man, I just want to like, get to know who you are." Like actually, and the thing is behind LF, like, man, actually during that time, they were, and they had a lot of them. Like they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I know they were a complete brand, but dude, anybody will tell you, especially that was involved in them back then, like they had as deep of a line as anybody. So
I mean, yeah, I'm looking at one in the corner there. So yeah, they were definitely doing it.
I rode that board too.
Did you really?
Yeah, I rode. That was the player.
I'll take a pic and put it in. There's one sitting in the corner of this room here. I don't even know where it came from. I don't know how it got here.
That's crazy.
Signed by Daniel Watkins.
Yeah. Wow. I definitely. I'll put it this way. My first trip to CWC, I left an O'Brien board there because I rode for him then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On accident, you left it there?
No. So so when I went there the first time, all that was there was just the cable, and because you've been there, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big pavilion, I guess, that everybody eats at, that was it. It was just that in the cable, and then along that wall, that is where the entrance is to the kitchen. Everybody that had been there that first year like left a board.
Oh, sick.
So there was like myself, Brian Grubb, BT, JD, and then like a bunch of the Europeans and a couple of Aussies that have been there. So that was kind of like their wall of fame,
Sick.
at the time.
That's super cool.
But that's all that was there, and that was the last time I think I ever rode O'Brien, actually.
Okay. So what happens next then? You went, it's obviously not maybe seeing a future there. What?
So throughout that winter time or whatever, same thing, still working at TSR, like riding all winter. And that was the same thing. What was great about Blake Hess was he was like, "Man, if nobody's here to ride, you guys can ride all
Fired
you
up.
want." So, we were those people that would go and ride on the 55-degree days or whatever. We had a whole crew building rails in the wintertime. And, about springtime hit, I remember specifically cable stock. Don Wallace had actually come in town, and we had just inked our LF sponsorship at TSR. And same thing, Blake Hess was like, "Hey," and, he was like, he saw the future, right? He's like, "Hey, we just did this deal. It's counterproductive if you ride for O'Brien. We're this big LF place, and you're trying to send people elsewhere." He's like, "We need to find a way to make this fit." So he had hyped me up to Don a bunch about it, and Don had came in, got to meet him, but it was like super short. I mean, a typical cable stock, you're wakeboarding behind the boat, you're doing traditional cable. There might have been a features only at the time, and then like there was always some sort of like wake skate, skee ball, or something else. So like Blake was always really good about when you go to a cable stock event, you are entertained the entire time.
Yeah.
There's always something going on. So I didn't really get a lot of time to talk to Don, but Blake had obviously hyped me up enough, and I'm assuming, I think Don had gotten to watch me, that sure enough, talked to Aaron Grace like 2 weeks later, and he was like, "Let's make something work." So I always say it was like best career move possibly ever as far as my wake career went.
I would argue, yeah. Probably.
Yeah, definitely say so. So, it's home for me. That's for sure.
Okay. I think speaking of Liquid Force, I think it's time we dive into the LF'n Wheel of Questions presented by Liquid Force.
The LF'n Wheel of Questions.
Okay, let's go.
Great transition.
Oh, man.
Liquid Force likes to make wakeboarding fun, so let's make this podcast a little bit more fun and spin the LF'n wheel of questions. So, Tom, go ahead and grab that down there, the wheel here. And for the listeners,
I can reach it.
You can reach it.
I've heard short people couldn't reach this.
They always have to stand up, but you got long arms, apparently.
I don't know about that.
For the listeners, there is only one option on this wheel, and it's the same all around in all 12 slots. It's college football trivia. So if you're watching, you obviously see Tom has a Texas football jersey on. He's a huge college football fan, Texas fan. Me and him talk about it quite often. So I just put college football trivia on every slot. So you don't even have to spin it if you don't want to. I think you should.
I definitely should. And, it's kind of like I heard somebody say this on a couple episodes recently because, like, nobody ever knows how much the wheel weighs on Price is Right.
Yeah, yep.
And when I listen, because I'm just a listener, I only hear this thing click a couple of times.
Yeah.
But there was somebody that just spun the heck out of it recently.
I'm trying to think who it was. Yeah, I don't know.
But anyhow, that's where I'm at. I'm like, hey, there's no ball bearing.
If I were to spin it, I'd spin the shit out of it.
All right, ready?
Yeah. That's a good one. We're getting a lot of rotos on this unit here.
What's it going to get?
Looks like college football trivia.
All right, man. I got a question real quick for you, though.
Oh, okay.
Are you're not going to, like, go back to, like, my time? Like, I won't get anything before I was born.
Nope. We're not going to go back there.
All right. Bring it.
All right. Number one. And this isn't Texas. There is some Texas stuff in here, but it's not just all Texas.
That's the ones I'm probably not gonna get. You watch.
I think you might get. We'll start with the first one. The Paul Bunyan Trophy is played for by which two teams?
Okay, I feel like this is Wisconsin, but I could be wrong.
It's big. Well,
it's Big Ten. I do know it's somewhere up north.
It's original Big Ten, I guess.
It's not Michigan State. I can tell you that. Oh my!
It is Michigan State.
Oh my gosh! I kept thinking it was. I want to say it was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin's got some other very similar sounding lumberjack or some shit like that.
I knew it was up north.
Yeah, I'll give you a half point for that one.
Yeah.
You kind of back yourself.
I wouldn't give me that, but I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for the optimism.
Who beat Alabama in the 2008 Sugar Bowl?
2008 Sugar Bowl. Okay.
Sugar Bowl.
Where you at, Rob? This was the year before Texas played them in the national championship. This would be Nick Saban's second season.
It would be his second season
and it would be. I'm not going to get this, but I want to say it's like a heavy hitter, like an Ohio State or
it's a very heavy hitter
or a USC. No, it's not USC. I definitely know that. That was the Pete Carroll era. They were too good. That was definitely
think non-Power 5.
Non-Power 5?
Yes, think G5.
Oh, then I've obviously not got this one. Okay, it's not a.
Boise? You're thinking too hard about it. It's Utah.
Oh, hey, actually, you know what? This is one I'm going to be glad. So we've got, obviously everybody knows, Hunter and I got banter, like a lot of beef and banter when it comes to college football.
We do.
This one, I'm going to be like, I'm okay with not knowing that one. But hey, good for you. I can't believe you guys have, does that mean you have a winning record against Bama?
We sure do.
Wow. Hey, guess what? This is the one thing we share in common, I think.
A hatred of Bama and a winning record against Bama.
I don't hate Bama. Saban's the GOAT.
Yeah, you're right. I don't hate Bama
but
either.
I'm just saying,
that's fair.
I think we both have winning records overall against them.
Yeah. That's okay.
I'm going to high five Rice on that one too.
Yep.
I'm 0 for 2 right now.
That was just after Urban Meyer left Utah and Kyle Whittingham came in. So, all right. In 2016, there were 2 undefeated teams in the regular season. Who were they?
This is first year of college football playoffs, so it's Ohio State being one of them because they won the Natty that year.
They were not undefeated.
They weren't.
Regular season.
Oh, regular season. I would say they won the Natty, so of course I'm naturally going to say them. This is pre-Clemson. Let's go.
You're not going to get one of these 2 teams, I can tell you that.
No, it's Washington.
No.
Why? No, really?
2 teams.
2 teams won undefeated.
Alabama was one of them. Regular season.
See, I feel like you're trying to throw me off, too. I was going to say Washington made like the first or second one, but if it's not them, then it's
I went to school
Oregon.
Here. I went to school here.
Oh, because I remember that was you guys got, yes.
It was Western Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah, 13-0, baby. Yeah, last time they were ever good.
That's insane. Yeah. 0 for 3, man.
I mean, you might get these ones. How much, within a couple 100 pounds, how much does the Texas mascot Bevo weigh?
Bevo, well, I believe, here's what's sad is I read something about this the other day, too, about why he couldn't go to the SEC championship because he like weighed too much and they weren't gonna have enough space for him. It's like 4,000 pounds.
He's heavy. I read 2,000, but it could be
2,000.
I don't know. It's thousands.
1 ton. Yeah, it was something to do with that, but yeah.
I'll put a picture in a Bevo. He's a unit.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
He's a great mascot.
You're not going to get these are really hard. You're not
Good.
going to get this one. Since 1994, which NFL franchise hasn't drafted a Texas player? There's only one team.
Oh wow. Okay. Hopefully it's the New York Jets.
It is.
Wow, the one that I got. Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
New York Jets have not drafted a Texas football player.
You know, no offense, because
Maybe it shows.
I know there's a couple. I think Tyler Hyam might be a Jets fan, and I always am like,
I think
that's the Jets are where you go to die.
it really is.
That's where
Aaron Rodgers has died there.
Yeah.
He was kind of dead before he went, but he's dead.
Hey, you know why? You know why Aaron Rodgers hates Texas, right?
No.
You know, this all has to do with the 2004 Rose Bowl. I'm gonna throw you some knowledge. You know him and Marshawn Lynch, right? You know they played on a team.
Yeah.
They have Cal Berkeley.
Yep.
Right. So we got the bid to the Rose Bowl that year. We played Michigan, right? And he was pissed. And we had like the same record, you know, but I think BCS computers, whatever,
the number
favored
back
us.
then.
Yeah. So, anyways, he was super vocal about it. He's like, man, we deserve to be there. Texas is not. You know, we should be blah blah. Well, they played Texas Tech in the Holiday Bowl and got wrecked. Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, Aaron
So he
Rodgers
doesn't
went
like
real
Texas.
quiet. Yeah, well, he thought we screwed him over by getting that bid, and then sure enough, he got beat by Tech.
I guess I'm
Anyways.
anyways.
On to the next.
This one, you might get this one right. I don't know. True or false, the Texas Longhorns will win this year's college football playoff?
Well, true. I mean, but duh.
Only time will tell on this one.
I'm just saying this. Here's the thing, and I know that but we have the most favored path.
I will put up a graphic of the path that Texas has to take.
And depending on when this airs, what I would love for you to also see is I want to play the Oregon Ducks in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, so my guy Don Wallace can get us some tickets, and we'll meet there.
So here's the backstory. Don Wallace, what is his official title at Liquid Force? Manager, whatever.
Yeah, it's like general manager, but
Okay.
Don, I mean,
He does a
Don
lot.
he's man of many hats at LF.
He is a big fan of Oregon.
He's an Oregon graduate.
Oregon graduate, huge fan of everything Ducks. So there's a lot of passion there, I guess you could
Yeah.
say,
Rightfully
in
so.
the LF team. So that would be very cool. From a third-party bystander, that would be great. I
Yeah.
have a future on the Oregon Ducks to win the national championship, so I'm hoping that they would beat Texas in that situation, but only time will tell.
Yeah, I get it, man. Hey, I just say I'm like, Dallas is a 5-hour drive for me. That's real easy for me to do, Don.
It is. And that's
But
sick.
but more importantly, we got to make it there first.
Also true. All right, we got to dive into an LF'n wildcard from the crew at Liquid Force, which is unironically you as well. But kind of wondering what your favorite contest win ever has been.
Man, that's a great question actually too. You know, one that's always sat with me, if you want to talk specifically contests, of course, was 2008 WWA Wake Park Worlds, because it was our first Worlds, right? Like the very first one. And man, it was monumental for a couple of things. Like, one, it was at CWC. And of course, at the time, that park is light years ahead of every other park in the world. So like, we literally went to the premier park to give like the best riding there was. Well, they had features only too, but you got to remember back in this time, features only was like a sideshow. It was funny. It was just like traditional was like the huge thing, and this was just like it was almost this. Yeah, it was literally just like a whatever, like a one-off thing. But yeah, obviously, great thing was like had my great friends Brett Little and Kyle Reed went with me, and then I met like really it's still like one of my longtime friends that. Instead of being like fierce competitors, we became such good buddies with Sam Collins, Bobo, you know. And it's funny because I'm gonna go ahead and take this from you too. But I know one of the questions you always ask is like, who's the unsung hero?
Yeah.
You know, all that. That is Sam Collins for me, hands
Okay.
down. That dude, when I rode against him, and again, I'm hopping all around over the
No,
place.
this is
When I
good.
rode against him at the very first WWA Park event, which was the CWC Open in 07, I think it was. First ever WWA, cable event. He was there, and I rode against him in the head-to-head super final, right? I got second, and when he did his run, I was standing on the dock and going, that's the best park rider there is, hands down. He is the best park rider in the world. I knew watching his run that there was, one, I wasn't going to beat it, and I'm like, two, nobody else can. And that's happened to me twice in my career. Actually, 3 times, really, but 2 that really stand out.
Or what was the
If you want
other
me to get the other one? 2009, Nick Davies.
Really?
Yeah, I rode against him. Same thing, super final at CWC. And man, Nick's one of those few that I would like. Nick's on a whole nother level as far as you want to talk edge board control that is just unmatched, you know. And obviously, like Nick, this is more the area, especially now in life. I respect Nick even more. Is like, man, his whole look and outtake on wakeboarding is phenomenal. Like he did it all and still always did it all for the right reasons, having fun. But I rode against him. He laid down first trick, heel back 9. I don't even think anybody had ever done a back 9, you know, at this time. And that was very first trick. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm the top seed. So, of course, I'm second. And I looked at it and I was like, I can't beat this. But, I mean, of course, at least the difference between him is I did not know Sam Collins when we met at the CWC Open. You know, like it was funny because we all knew this was going to happen. It was like, dude, this guy that's from Australia, he's Australia's best, and he's probably the world's best park rider. And then there's Tom, and, you know, they're going to meet in the super final, and it happened exactly the way it was. And then Sam threw down. So I just didn't know that. And then all of a sudden, it was awesome that Sam won it because we became homies. We traveled together, did all that. When Nick did it, Nick and I had competed against each other several times, but Nick had always done Nick things, you know, which is like when you watch me ride and you watch him ride, you were watching me going out for a win. You were watching Nick because Nick was awesome, and whatever you saw from him, it was going to be amazing. It was so much fun, you know. It was like you didn't know what was going to happen with Nick, you know. And to see Nick do a run where he like had it, all right, I'm going for it.
Yeah,
and it was just one of those like, damn, dude. Where I'm lucky he hasn't focused on like lasering down a run every single time because I would not have all these screw-ins. Yeah, you know, like you did that, and
you keep having fun, Nick.
Yeah, exactly, man. It was like holy shit. Like Nick it was unreal. And then the last one too. It didn't click with me at the time, I think, because I had screwed up, but Daniel Grant.
Yeah, DG.
And that's one definitely we should circle back on.
The 2011.
Yeah.
Okay, I have that written down, so we'll circle back on that. But thank you to Liquid Force for that, for the LF'n questions. Make sure to go check out the 2025 gear. It's now up on the site, so go ahead and put that back.
Yeah, it's, lit for sure,
Anything stick out to you from the 2025 line? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, it's a whole new line.
Yeah.
It's a whole new entire line. And, of course, you know, by the time you guys see this, the fuse lock foil thing, I mean, man, that we've got is unreal. Like, I mean, yeah, it's going to speak for itself. Get your time there. But, you know, to talk more particularly about wakeboarding, the Butterstick Pro, I actually prototyped some of the original Butterstick Pro, or the original Buttersticks, which became the Butterstick Pro. The new so it got a redesign.
For 2025.
For 2025. Okay. Phenomenal. Like literally first time on the board, I'm like immediately one of those, this is it for me for 2025. No question. So it's already a favorite in the line, and we just took a favorite and made it even better.
It is the number 1 selling cable board in Europe, right? Or something like that. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, obviously I don't get like market share reports, but if you've ever stuck your feet in a Butterstick Pro, I can promise you this, it will be your board.
Yeah.
It will be. Like, it's just one of those, it's just a general, like, doesn't matter your riding style.
You're going to have fun
good
on this
it,
thing.
you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, to even give you an extent, like, there's dudes that are insane at air tricks on it, and it's Felix's board.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so that should give you kind of an idea. It's to me, it's the best everyday board. You know, obviously we're in a time frame now where you kind of have quiver boards. Like, man, if I want to get something, you know, a specific rail board or a fun board or whatever the case is, if you want an everyday park board.
You want the daily driver.
Yeah, that's it. Let's put some mileage on her too, man. She's sturdy.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's Felix's board too.
Of course.
So it's Felix.
I mean, you see what he winches.
Yes. It's fucking Felix, dude.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's go ahead and put that LF'n Wheeler questions back. Thank you to Liquid Force. Make sure to check out the 2025 gear. All right. I think it's time we dive into a guest question from new team rider, new-ish, Gavin Stuckey.
Yeah, let's go.
Mr.
GS.
Fooshee. First things first, I'm stoked you're on the podcast. Cannot wait to give this one a listen. But, you know, I got to shine a light on my TM. So, Tom, you've had numerous pro models, more sponsors than I can count. You've won it all. You've done it all. But I want to talk tricks. So, you're pretty well known for technicality, high caliber. You could say tricks that were done before their time. one off the top of my head would be a Pete Rowe 720, which we're still seeing in competitions today. But my question for you is, what tricks kind of caught you off guard to see landed already? And what tricks were you thinking would have been landed by now? Let me know your thoughts, dude. I'm going to act like this didn't take 100 tries to record. And cheers, boys.
Yeah. Hey, first off, much love for you, Gavin, man. Like, insanely fired up that he rides for us. Like, insanely, man. That was there's been a couple that I've been really proud of, and that was since I've been on this side of the fence, and that's been one that I've been very fired up that I was able to be an assistance with to make happen, man. So much love for you there, though. But yeah, you know, as far as it's crazy. The Pete 7 thing, I just want to first off say, you know, if we want to get real technical into it, you know, there's a Pete 7 and there's an X-Mob 7.
Sweet. Switch.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm more notoriously known for the X-Mob 7, but the regular Pete 7 came first. Just saying.
The reg Pete 7 did come first.
Yeah, that one came first, and it wasn't done very much by me either. But yeah, anyhow, you know, it's pretty wild because, like, really, I think last year at LAO was one of the first times I started seeing it like incorporated in a run.
Yeah, Trent.
You know, with Trent, and he was doing it there, and which is crazy because, again, I'm not the guy to come here and like hype myself up, but that was actually a part of my runs back in my day. Like I remember in 2014 doing it in Brazil at Pedro's dad's park. I remember doing it in Mackay for their grand opening as a part of the middle of my run, doing it at Thai Wake Park. Like, that one took a while to like make it into. It's just a part of everybody's run. So, there's that one. As far as tricks, man, Gavin's good at his questions because this one's got my mind he's got my mind wandering right now. And if I don't answer this, I'm actually going to see him later on tonight too. So like the sad thing is, I'm going to have an answer for him, but I want everybody else to hear it.
Yeah,
so
I wrote it down. So
I might have to come down on it, but you know. Actually, no. I'm going to say this one. One that I'm surprised does not see more is a Slim Chance 7. And here's why. And I know you probably understand this, and a lot of other riders do. This is getting like crazy technical on tricks, but like a Dum Dum and a Front Mob 5 are the same trick. A Switch Pete, or an X Mob 5 or a Switch Pete 5 and a KGB are the same trick. I could say it the other way around too. Like a Switch KGB is the same thing as a regular Pete 5. And it's pretty wild to see, like, I think it was Ulf do Dum Dum 5 and then 7, but we haven't seen it from the Slim Chance or Front Mob aspect of it. So I just know that if one is doable, if one has been done, the other one should be doable.
Yeah.
You know? And considering too, it's been such a long time since one of those has been done.
Yeah.
And obviously that just, it marinates on me because it's one that I've done before, you know, but that's one I for sure have pondered. Like, why is it not guys, tell me what about it? What about it is ugly? If it's ugly, just tell me, you know, I need to be told the truth. There's gotta be a reason. You can be brutally honest with me. Come on, man. My riding was the furthest thing away from perfect. So call me out.
We're talking flips and a lot of spins.
Yeah.
This is out of my wheelhouse for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's what he was looking for. Like, that's a good answer. He's also wondering what caught you off guard, you know, when it comes to you trying tricks.
Man, there's actually a bunch. You know what's funny is air switch front flips took me forever, and there's a funny story behind this too. I know it's so weird. I could not switch front flip. Like off anything, not off a kicker, not off the wake, not anything, you know? And like most people naturally, when you learn that, if you're doing switch front, you go switch front to fakie or switch front to reg. It was funny. So like I'm on this trip with Daniel Grant, right? Which is a whole nother story itself, but I'm on this trip with Daniel Grant through Australia, and Daniel is 13. This was 2 months after he had just beat me that first time or whatever. So him and I are on this full like month and a half long trip. And I'm like, Daniel, I can't switch front flip. And he's like, I can't either. So we're like, all right, dude, let's make an agreement. If one of us does it or tries it, the other has to. So we're riding around at Penrith. Cable 6 had just opened, the smaller cable. And we're riding around, and we had made this agreement, and I turn and I look over my shoulder, and here's Daniel coming out of a switch front flip, and he falls. And I'm like, shit, he actually did it. And I've had this huge brain fart. Like I've had people put short ropes on the full size System 2s just for me to learn. I could not do it. Hugest brain fart, right? So I look over and Daniel does it and he falls coming out of it. And I'm like, damn, I got to do it. I got to do it. And I'm like, this is me, the competitive side of me going, I can't let this little shit do this thing before me. Not only do it before me, but like be able to do this. Cause now he's going to be able to
it's
do all these
opening up a
tricks.
whole door of possibilities.
Yeah. And I'm like, he already kicked my ass one time. Well, now I'm just giving him all the tools to kick my ass like
Even
way
worse.
more. Yeah, exactly. You know, and this kid's half my age at this time pretty much anyway. So, you know, so like, again, this is the competitive side of me as I'm sitting here. I'm like, all right, man, next you got to grow a set of nuts. It's time to do it. Like, man up, dude. You got to get rid of this mind block, whatever you got going on. So sure enough, like 2 laps later, I come out, finally learned myself, switch front to fakie. And that is one, I'm not even kidding you, probably took over 100 tries. There was never like falls. I just couldn't get past this weird mental block. Yep. And I did it specifically because I saw Daniel. Well, come to find out, I go back to him and I'm like, dude, I'm all hyped because I finally got over this hurdle. And I'm like, man, thank you so much. I can't believe you tried it. You know, that's what I needed. And he's like, I didn't do it. He's like, I fell on a back roll. And the whole time I just like, I caught the very end of it. And I just thought that that's what he did. And that's what it took. Like he just went along like as I'm riding by and he's in the water. I'm like, can't believe you did it. And he's like, yeah. Probably not even knowing that I don't
like, what?
know. Yeah, the whole thing. So like it forced me into it. But yeah, like what I thought he did, he never did. And it again, and also I'm pretty sure because it was the time. And this was the first trip. Like Daniel and I had been buddies, but this was the first time like him and I were like together for a while.
Just riding.
So that was also when it came from being like, all right, he's just another competitor, but he's a young kid to this is my homie. This is my dude. Like I spent a month and a half long trip in Australia where it was just him and I. I think his dad put me down as his guardian on this. So like, what do you do anytime you're a month and a half? You're traveling together nonstop. We're roommates. Yeah. Except for there's a 13-year spread.
Okay, so I was going to ask, what's the age difference between you and him? You're 26, he's 13 at this time?
I think so. It's something close to that. I feel like I should know.
Okay.
Too.
But I think a bigger point on that is
he's a 99 model. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's 14-year spread.
A lot.
I believe so. I'm almost positive. I'm pretty sure like when I've looked at his birthday and I'm always like, all right, he was there for Y2K. He doesn't remember it, but he was there for it. That's like that's the one thing I feel like it always sticks out of me when I'm trying to remember Daniel's age.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that thing's it's cool to touch on that you and him were learning tricks. And I think that's something that's unique about board sports is you're 26, he's 13 or whatever the gap was. The age doesn't even matter at that point. You guys are just two people trying to learn the same trick.
For sure, man.
Which is so cool.
And you know what? I heard you talk about this on a previous pod, man, and I'm glad you brought that back up because that is a fantastic point. And it's just like, and it's been this way because again, I always relate myself because like same thing, man. I went the normal route of like yourself, like going to college, you know, like high school with all your friends, and you go from this like lifestyle. It's like your buddies that you went to grade school with and college with, they're the same age as you. Those are your friends for life. And it's like I have all that. But then I also have all these guys in Wake, and almost 2/3 of them are younger than me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy because I love hanging out with them as much as I do my non-Wake friends back home, you know. Also, you know, and they're all sorts of ages, you know, like same thing with my guys that, you know, I ride with at TSR. They're my homies. Like, dude, like we mesh so well, you know, and same thing. There's 14, 15-year spread.
Yeah.
You know, and it's rad. Like, it's so weird. If I didn't, I mean, it sounds weird for me to say, but if I didn't have like my life and my jobs and my kid and all that stuff, like I'd go and hang out with these dudes on Friday night.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish I could sometimes, you know, but
it just breaks down that like weird made up barrier that like you can't, you know what I mean? It's just cool. It's just super cool. And I think it probably exists in other things, but I think it exists a lot in board sports. Yeah,
and man, it's healthy. I feel like it's healthy, especially as somebody that was like always the older guy in my aspect is because I think that's a reason why I had at least a longer career. Definitely didn't have like the longest or anything, but you know, if I didn't have these younger guys sitting there, like not only on my tail, but like also being my friends in that exact moment, like I told you, like we're over here sharing a moment. We're technically trying to accomplish the same thing. Now, I will say, of course, Daniel, 3 minutes after I did this, goes and does it, and then does like switch front to blind, all this other shit afterwards, of course, because it's Daniel and he's insanely naturally talented. But yeah, you know, like that's something. I love all my friends from back home, but you know, that's something I wouldn't be able to get from that too.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It's very special.
Yeah, it's
you
cool.
know, that is great about action sports and, you know, in this case, our community.
Yeah. So we were touching on, I kind of want to bounce back to boat and cable because you started on the boat, got into cable. And I'm curious, as someone who still, you know, throughout your career, I feel like you did both. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you competed on the boat a ton, but you probably still rode quite a bit of boat.
It was when it was convenient,
Okay.
you know, kind of like when we were discussing earlier, you know, but yeah, it was like, hey, you know, I'm not in Europe at this point during the summer. The nice thing was, so it's crazy. I can't remember. I think it was Dean or somebody you were talking to, but like the wild thing about back in the day was if you were like an up and comer and it was all about hitting, you know, PWT was a big deal. To go and qualify, dude, I'm not even shitting you. There would be like 75, 80 riders. And it's like, you got to win your heat.
Yeah.
And there's 10 heats, you know, and junior men was the same way. So it was like, it was gritty. Like it was more difficult to qualify for the PWT than it was to make it to at least the semifinals. You know, like the round, they were just such that, and you had to, and it was the whole day.
Yeah.
Pro men was just one day. And that's all it was. And you know what? It's like, and it's, man, it was like a roll of the dice because if you're from California, you're from Texas, you're from somewhere like that, you're flying yourself there, getting your hotel, all that for one ride, one shot, and you run into the transfer box. But no. It was, but at the same time, that's so rad. Like it was that deep of a field, you know, but it was extremely difficult. But yeah, so there was always usually a PWT stop at like TXMC up in Dallas, which is like a private lake. They, you know, and what's also cool, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier about there being all these like one-off side contests. Well, there'd be the PWT, and then the night before there'd be a double up contest. You know, their lake, for example, it was like same thing when I remember when we were at Red Bull Wake the City, they had a double up contest, I think at that exact same spot the night before the PWT. And it was just like, and then guess what? If they didn't have that, or they did the night before that, the Thursday night, they had a rail jam and all these opportunities to make money. And of course there was a kicker, big air, you know, or something else. So there was so much going on and everybody was there every night.
Yeah.
I don't know how we did it. I don't know how we powered through it. It just makes me want to pass out even thinking about it right now. But man, it was killer. It was amazing.
It sounds unreal. And they didn't have a double up contest this Wake the City, but way back when in that same location, they did, which is an unreal location for a double up contest.
That was
sick.
That was a cool event too, by the way. But yeah, there was just so much going on that like it wasn't just when you go to a wakeboard contest, it wasn't just that exact.
Yeah.
Let's hit the wake up and down on this thing. We're gonna go off site to a couple different places, and when we're done with this rail jam, we're going to a party at this bar. And guess what? It's not all the athletes. It's all the spectators that are likely to be there at every single thing all weekend. Sick. And there's multiple chances for you to get something signed or get all these giveaways or all this. Like it was just 4 days of madness.
Yeah.
That only a 21-year-old can handle.
Okay, so speaking of boat and cable, though, what do you wish that boat riders understood more about cable riders and vice versa? People who don't really flip between the two.
Oh, man. I feel like we're at a point right now where, like, I kind of feel good about, like, the respect and with how they feel for each other. But, you know, it's...
Maybe even from a riding perspective.
I will say this. Here, from a riding perspective, I will tell you here, if anybody knows, and, you know, again, whether or not it's a popular thing or not, like, I've always, you know, my thing was riding sideways any way I could on the water, right? So that involves all aspects of cable. Well, the weirdest thing, and this is probably an area that somebody that traditionally only rides boat doesn't know, but a toe side air trick is the weirdest thing and does not cross over with anything else in wakeboarding. The way you edge, the way you flick, a heel side air trick, whatever. Yeah, that's a progressive edge. You're flipping similar, all that stuff. Toe side, and especially switch, you know, it's if you know type thing. If you can do it, you know how strange and awkward it is, and everybody that goes through that process of learning it goes about this high 20 or 15 times and lands on their butt. It's weird. I would say
If you
that.
know, you know. I definitely don't
Yeah.
know. I don't understand.
It doesn't, yeah. And,
Does
and-
not compute.
and the sad thing is if you watch it, even in like slow-mo, it still doesn't make sense. Like you try to do it. You can't just, it's just not, it's a feel thing. Like you can't just watch it and go, okay, he does the X, Y, and B. I'm going to do that.
Yeah,
No,
feel it
not at
out.
all. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. The other way around though, I don't know, it's, everything's changed. I think park riders, if the way that they edge, I think that if you were to take a park rider, put them behind a boat back in the day, I think they would thrive better than now. And the reason why I say it is you're hitting a wake that's like this big. You have to just put on an edge and use a progressive edge. Yeah. Start easy, go harder and harder, and it's going to kick you, right? Whereas now wakes are much bigger, a lot more transition. This is where like a more of a 3-stage board makes even more sense now than it even did back then. So there's a lot coming from somebody that, we'll just say that never really hits the wake, is having to work with a soft transition versus a hard one like a kicker. I could see that being be a difficult crossover, but the toe side air trick thing is the one that stands out the most.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was good. That was a good thing. Random question. Speaking of air tricks, do you think air tricks have to be grabbed to look good?
Yeah, I if anybody really knows, I spoke pretty loud about that back in my time. That was my big thing. And before I go any further on this, I definitely want to say this.
Okay.
What I say does not mean it's right. And that's something that's taken obviously some time and maturity, because at one point when I'm the guy winning contests, I thought, I was rolling. That is not correct. And this gets me back into what I was saying earlier in Roots is it's like why I really enjoyed wakeboarding from my traditional sports was that there is no right or wrong. There is no specific way to do it. And if you want to just get all dangly with it, more power to you. I might think it's ugly, but that does not mean my views.
It's my opinion, not yours.
Yeah, but that does not mean my opinion is correct.
Yeah.
I might have some sort of credit to it, but that does not mean it's correct, and nor does that mean you should do what I say.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, yes, air tricks should be grabbed. I personally am not as big of a fan of the stretched out like Superman type look, but again, I know the difficulty of it. Yes, I've done a lot of that stuff, so I will absolutely always reward it for what it's done. And then again, it's just because that's the way I feel the way it should look does not mean that's correct.
Yeah. That's a great preface. Everybody has opinions.
Yeah.
And I would agree with you on that opinion.
But doesn't it look so much better with a grab?
Yeah.
Knees sucked up.
I mean, I'm thinking of some ones right now that are grabbed that look really good.
A classic tail grab front to blind, like one trick like most guys can do. It's kind of like it's like your T to B behind boat.
Yeah, sure.
Like a tangent blind, like, although it's not that difficult, always looks good, right? Like very, very basic, simple. It's grabbed, like so on. So that's like our T to B for park, and it's good. And it's funny because there's guys that aren't traditionally known for like air tricks, like a Felix. Felix will go out and do one, and it looks dope. Like a lot of these guys, and that's them also going back to their roots too. That's some Algoy in them. But yeah, like there are some that look great, and that's one of them because I think you can like grab it and you can really like turn it last second too.
Yeah, you can tweak the shit out of it too. Yeah.
Cable's really difficult to grab. Air tricks are really difficult to grab for a long time. I think that's one thing that might be another one for boat to realize is like when you come off the wake behind the boat, you can grab your board immediately. You technically really cannot grab, and guys are great about defying physics on this. That's what makes action sports amazing. But it is very difficult to grab your board right off your flick. Almost impossible on cable. Like you almost have to wait till you're at the peak, and then you can grab it the entire descent. But like think about how many people you see, bam, as soon as they flick, they get a grab. They don't. So that's like another, I wish I would have thought about that earlier when that question was asked. But yeah, that's another concept that you kind of have to grab to is you cannot just let go. And if you do, you're losing a lot of your amplitude, we call it. So
that's an interesting point too. I never thought about that. Yeah, that's true though. Yeah.
I pondered on it for sure, man. Like, when you get on an airplane for a long time in your career, you start, my mind's still today. I still think about it all the time. Like, man, if only I could do what I used to do. I'd do something. I'd do this or I'd do that. My mind still thinks about wakeboarding in its sleep. That's for sure.
I love that.
A lot.
As is mine. So speaking of your career, you had a great career. Let's talk ROTY. And let's bring the ROTY board down, actually, when we're talking ROTY. So You are, if you, go ahead and grab that.
I was gonna say, is it
just pick it up right off the thing there. Should be able to come straight up. Yeah. So we're grabbing the 2024 ROTY Board. You were the 2010 Rider of the Year winner. So you get a vote on like the legitimate alliance. Is that correct? You guys vote on it?
Yeah. Does that mean I get to put myself like way up here and just do
2010 would be over in that room over there.
Yeah,
so
for
long
sure.
ago.
No, and I guess according to the rules, right? Like I have to put one name because I've got two, and I want to at least say my two.
So you could say the two, but I'll run through the rules real quick for the listeners. If you're not familiar, this is the 2024 ROTY Board. Every guest I have on until ROTY comes out, which it may be out at this point, depending on when Alliance releases it. But they pick a person that they think could or should win ROTY this year. And on the list, we currently have Rivers Hedrick, Pedro Caldas, Cole Crace, Trent Stuckey, and Thomas Herman. And so Tom right now can either choose to put a new name on there, or he can choose to say, you know what, I agree with one of these names. I'm just going to kind of endorse it.
I do have a quick question. Does this mean more than one person is endorsed?
Correct.
Okay.
Chase
that's nice.
Andrews and the whole Pointless posse endorsed Rivers Hedrick.
That's awesome. Yeah, I say okay. So that's the P.
So that's the P
okay.
right there.
Well, she's one of my two, but
okay,
same thing. And I will definitely say this too, man. I try to do this with all things. This is not. There is no bias in this whatsoever because out of three, Pedro is one of my ones, but I'm going to add another name to this.
Let's keep this list going.
And we heard from him earlier.
I am surprised this name did not come up earlier.
Thank you.
Or on this list earlier. But
EY?
EY.
Yeah.
You should know.
I know.
Didn't you watch him sign the contract?
Well, that's what autocorrect's for. My phone knows I say it enough. Yeah.
All right, so Gavin Stuckey, obviously, for those who are unaware. So
what's today?
12th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then draw a little line and then a circle there. That way, if
I really want to put my name on that one too.
You
though,
can't do
Pedro,
that. You can't do that.
Know.
You're throwing G Stuck on there. So
yeah, but that's yeah.
Gavin
and
Stuckey
I promise you, I know that seems biased, but believe me, Pedro is like my top three are Gavin, Rivers, Pedro.
Yeah.
And the Rivers and Pedro one, I'm pretty torn up on, but
throwing Gavin on there, I like that.
How could you not?
Yeah. He was the one who put Rivers' name on there. He was the first one. So it's tough to put that on. Oh, look at that. You got it first try. There we go. So we got to round out the board, we got Rivers, Pedro, Cole Crace, Trent Stuckey, Thomas Herman, and Gavin Stuckey. So a lot of heat on that board.
I will definitely say there is not one single name on there that does not deserve to be on there.
Agreed.
Like everybody basically, I'm going to give credit to everybody that's voted because they know what's up.
Yeah.
They know what's up. But I'm anxiously awaiting seeing another signature, or whatever you want to call it, icon next to Gavin Stuckey.
We'll see if we get another person in here before it comes out because it's obviously dropping in the new year. So I don't know. I mean, do you know when it's?
It's it's been different.
It kind of changes. I feel like.
Yeah, it's. I mean, back when it was a print magazine, it was like.
You have a hard date and
it was
stuff.
like November, really around the 1st of December. But like lately, the last couple of years, it's been like into the new year. So.
I like that it's after the new year, so that way, if you have something you want to, I mean, you put an edit out in mid-December, like that should be accounted in your ROTY vote, right? So
yeah.
We'll see. If any edits come out.
All I want to say,
or
though,
any edits have come out at this point.
Listen to what you just said. That's gonna. All I'm gonna tell you is this. That's gonna resonate.
Yeah,
that's gonna resonate hard. So Hunter dropping some wisdom right there.
All right. So I mean, speaking of ROTY, you won 2010 Ride of the Year, and I think everybody knows what Ride of the Year is. There's only one, and it's across all disciplines of wakeboarding, street, cable, boat. You won in 2010. What is it like to win? I think, in my opinion, the highest accomplishment one can receive in the sport of wakeboarding. I
mean, I always viewed it too. I also want to say it. I always called it ROTY.
Am I saying it wrong?
I don't know. I don't think it is. Hey, remember what I just told
ROTY?
you? What I say does not mean that's correct. This is you got a Southerner, you got a Midwesterner, so you're hearing our accents right now.
I would be curious.
Anyways, I was same thing because part of it too is like. When it's one rider only. I mean, obviously, when we were having Wake Awards, you have one rider, but it was like one rider per a certain criteria or whatever, an aspect of wake. Whereas this is kind of like one for the whole entire season, and essentially too, it's it's like a formal court case. It's judged by your peers, you know? And it's like, what else is more honorable than your friend, whatever, your peers, that the industry alone, like recognizing you. To me, especially, I think too, is like, man, every rider probably goes through this, but the names that got it before you, really always pointed out to me when I looked at, Parks, and I looked at Randall, and I looked at Aaron Reed and Danny Hampson and Ben Greenwood and Chris O'Shea. Like, dude, these are heavy hitters. They are a team,
the best in the sport.
Yeah. And what was cool is like when you look at that list of names, and this is just pre-2010, I can go on and on all of them. There's something about each one of them that will never be replicated. They did their own thing, pushed against the grain. Like there's just so much, like it's not just this dude filmed an epic part and he won every contest. There's something about them that they did against the normal route. This dude didn't just win PWT, like every one of them solidified themselves in their own dynamic.
Yeah.
And one of the areas where I feel like GS was there.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah. But I also feel that way about Rivers too, Pedro. And I mean, man, Trent following it up too was, whoa. It's so funny because like, these guys, like, man, everyone on here like is worthy of it. But not to sidetrack or sidebar you here, but like, man, one of the things that I've always strived to do, like, with all my athletes, within give or take 2 hours of any contest they win, they get a text from me, a congrats text. Always like that has just kind of always been my thing. Well, I'm a fan of wakeboarding. I'm fortunate enough to have the position that I have, but it's not just our athletes. Like, this is the extent of how much I love our sport. When Thomas won his first PWT stop at the beginning of the year, he got a text from me. Congrats, dude. Like, it's so awesome watching you bust your ass. Mossy, another one. Like, these guys, I mean, this isn't coming from, oh, hey, Tom, he works for Liquid Force. This is coming from Tom.
He's a wakeboarder.
Who was a wakeboarder, still is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it's just awesome recognizing these guys for, like, I want everybody to be known. It's not just, I'm your team manager, you're getting a text from me, like I make it a point, like I said, I mean, to let all these guys know beyond my athletes, what they do. But I challenge you that. You ask any one of these guys, especially the LFers, like, it's within hours. And usually the only reason within hours is because we were probably overseas and their finals was happening like right when I was waking up.
Yeah, 4 a.m. or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. Some shit like that. Exactly. So
that's cool. That's good to hear. And I think that's important for, the younger kids coming up to see that, hey, these older guys, they're watching. They're paying attention. Like, I was talking to Jimmy Lee Rich the other day, and he's like, he's still paying attention, dude. He's still watching. Like, that shit's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool,
Yeah, just cause we lay low on social media, man, don't mean you're not seen. That's for sure. I mean, I can actually tell you every year, it's funny because, like, a lot of it has to do with, like, I love watching a lot of the live streams, right? And if the live streams happen, like, man, some of these ones that happen like first thing Sunday morning, like, man, I'm the person that gets up, not by choice, but I'm up usually like 6:30, on the weekends, 7:00. And if there's a final on then, and it's like before whatever, I'm getting out of the house to have my family, guess what? My kids come down the stairs and Wake Duels on the TV.
Yeah.
Like that's what, it's no different than watching a Horns game, like a UT game for me. So, and it's hype, like that's, if the timing is there, that obviously I can make it work on my weekends. Cause obviously, like, my family deserves my time, but if I can make it work,
you squeeze it in, dude. Yeah.
I will. It is no doubt. TV. I know it's there. So, like, yeah, the Fooshee family has definitely seen way more wakeboarding than it probably should.
Yeah, never enough as long as it's good wakeboarding. So you mentioned kind of, I guess, what you do, but you didn't really say it. So for the people who don't know what you're doing at Liquid Force, what do you do? I
have an absolutely awesome position. I am the global team manager, athlete manager. Man, it's obviously an honor to do it because, one, what the brand has done for me throughout my time. But two, it's just like, man, if you want to talk about how great like Liquid Force is, it's like, look, like Shane's like basically he's, director of everything video with LF. Shane's an ex-athlete. So here we are taking care of him. Watson had done this for a little bit. Like, it's just great to see that you get to work for a brand that still looks out for their athletes past their athletic career. And so that's another big part. Another big part of it too is, I'd probably say like half of the team still was teammates of mine when I was an athlete. The other half are like new ones. But essentially circling back into like what we were talking about earlier, to a certain extent, man, these are my peers. These are my friends, and when we all get together, it's like, it's great. And the one area that I don't think a lot of my athletes think about, but, all my friends back home, aside from like the crew of younger kids I ride with at TSR, like they're like my non-waker buddies, like whatever. We'll talk sports, talk kids, all this stuff or whatever. Yes, I'm a talker in the first place, but like, man, if I'm on the phone with you and we're talking for a while, it's because I'm excited. It's because I love what we're talking about, what we're doing, and it's like my phone calls are always usually like, oh, where were you at? What went down? You want to leak to me what trick? You know how much I've been getting at Luca and Sam, be like, tell me what's gone down in that flick. Tell me what has gone down in that movie.
No.
Like, I'm like, leak me
I just don't want to
something.
know, though. I don't want to know.
Oh, I do.
I want to go to that premiere, and I just want to, have a couple Teddy Brewskis and just take it all in how it's, it's how it's supposed to be taken in.
For sure. And I'm not saying that
but the other half is like, fuck, dude, I want to know.
Yeah. And I'm not saying they've leaked it to me, though.
Yeah.
I'm not getting, but I'm just saying, though, it's like, man, this is like what a lot of my
excitement.
conversations are like. And man, what's like phenomenal. And you've had him on here, Gavin, it's like, I talked to him, man. And every time we talk, like, we'll definitely dive into like how, like, it's like breaking down a trick, like specifically how somebody does this or he does it or whatever the case is, and it's like, I know sometimes they'll get that call and be like, shit, it's Tom. I got to free up the next 30 minutes. And it's probably because most time I'm in my car and I got to commute to and from my other job, but it's also like, if there's one message I want to put out to them, if there's a reason why our conversation goes so long, it's because I get excited. Like, I love talking wake.
Yeah.
I love talking about it, so as much as that might be difficult, guys, just always remember, like,
comes from a good place.
Would you rather have me call you up, tell you, hey, I need you here later? Or you want to chop it up,
talk about a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. So just respect for what they do.
So what does a TM do? What does an athlete manager do?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can tell you this. Think of Jerry Jones, but I do much better at my job.
You couldn't do worse.
I know. Anyways,
Jerry Jones is the owner of Dallas Cowboys, America's worst team.
Yeah. Anyways, no, it's it's a combination of everything. Like every single thing. I am a travel agent. Man, if you have Megan, like, I got to give shout out to Megan Ethel because she's like got like 20 nicknames for me, and travel agent Tommy's one of them. A travel agent, and I will tell you too, man. 2020 and 2021 was 2020 was my first year on the job. And you imagine walking in, it's COVID, and any kind of year an athlete needs to get sent somewhere. Oh, normally it's like, hey, internationally, you might have to get them a visa. Oh, imagine the amount of paperwork we got to, and it's different for every country and tests and all this. Like, logistically, trying to send an athlete overseas in 2020 or 2021 was a nightmare. But at the same time, I also look back and I'm like, if you were going to groom me for that job and see if I could like pull it off, I passed the test of time. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I do an insane amount of travel. Obviously, it will help organize product. And when I say product, it's not just getting actual product into their hands and their feet. It's getting organization with developing product. I negotiate all sorts of numbers, we'll just say, not just with the athletes, but all sorts of things with them. Man, it's just think of a general manager for a sports team, but he's got like 25 people underneath him. And it's like that, but a fraction of the number because it's not a NFL, MLB team or whatever. But everything that you can think of logistically that has to do with an athlete, and that is what it entails. And believe it or not, there's problems that happen every single day. And when I say that, not necessarily like problems, but whether it's something roadblocks, whether it's I broke a product or, hey, my flight's delayed and I'm here on this shoot. I need you to help reroute me for it. Or I need you to, if it's not a shoot, I'm overseas, I'm linking up with the distributor to go do a clinic or a demo. I need you to get with them. You know what I mean? It's just like my hours are not just like 9 to 5. They're not anything like that, and honestly, it works great because, like I said, like I split up my time. But when you're managing 40-something athletes and they're all different nationalities, there's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, it's really crazy too. Like it doesn't sound like much, but trying to get like 10 athletes. Well, for example, we shot our product for 2025 at Hypnotics. Trying to get everybody and all the product to Hypnotics was a lot more difficult than you think. And getting it there on time. And our crew at LF is absolute legends. Like, man, I mean, no job is necessarily easy with anything there, but man, they help out a ton. Like, I mean, I definitely will give shout outs to Nate, to Adam Summerfield there, man. If everybody's met him, and this is one of the things, if you have been around a lot of the LF stuff, you see a lot of people from LF, and I feel like this is a thing that separates us from a lot of other brands. You'll see Don Wallace, like I said, he's over at LAO at a contest,
Go drink a beer with him, he's there, yeah.
Don Wallace and Rich Jonas, man. Rich is another great one. He's our marketing manager. He's another great one, man. He makes things happen, but he's there. They're present. Their face is there at events, at other things. Obviously, Jimmy doesn't need praise because there's not amount of praise that is already not given to him. He's done everything, man. He's phenomenal. Pete, our other product engineer, he does all the foils. When you guys see all this stuff, man, like it speaks for itself. I could go on and on. Brian Dolly has been one of my favorite people at LF. Like everybody there, Joe Highfill, man, like crushed on our graphics. These guys are the most insanely hardworking people. So that's another big reason why I love doing this. Of course, as an ex-athlete, it's great, but man, these guys, some of them I've worked with for, almost 20 years. Some of them I've only worked with for 3 to 4, but like their drive and work ethic is unmatched. And if you ever sat in on one of our meetings at LF, I think it would like absolutely understand. And I mean, it's very like, put your nose in the dirt and grind it out, man. It's respect, man, but I love it. But yeah, managing 40 athletes, it can be difficult. But I was there at one point, so I try to also put myself in the what did I not like and what did I like.
Yeah.
Because I worked with a lot of different brands and had many of different athlete managers, and it's fortunate the one that I worked with the most, Aaron Grace, was amazing. And he was. I always said him. I mean, a lot of these guys at LF, they are friends before business colleagues any day. And that's probably my last thing I'll end you on why I really enjoy working this position.
Speaks volumes right there.
It does, man. They're friends before business colleagues.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
Much love from my LF family. That's for sure, man.
Love to hear it. Yeah, much love. Okay, so I do want to back it up to 2011 Wake Park Worlds because we touched on this, but this is you versus Daniel Grant, who was, I don't know, 13 years old at the time, 12 years old.
Yeah,
actually, got to be right in there.
I think it was 12, but okay, so it wasn't Worlds.
Was it not Worlds?
It was the Ultimate Wake Championship. So. Yeah.
Ultimate, okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No, 2011 was in Abu Dhabi.
No, dude, this was CWC.
It was.
I was watching the video.
So it was, but hold on. It might be Worlds, but here's the thing.
I'm confused.
It was a part of the 2010 Wake Park World Series. Worlds was actually at Turkey, that at Hypnotics. What had happened was there was some sort of, I honestly say they pushed it back. There was a reason. It was originally supposed to be in the fall, and they pushed it back, I think, because either they had been hit with a typhoon or they were like, it was just getting too violent with typhoons. It was something, I remember it was something to do with weather related. So they said, okay, we're going to push it to January. But man, those events, see that was another one that I was going to say kind of is up there with wins, because for 2 years in a row, we did the Ultimate Wake Championship. And I'm like, man, the only thing that was close to that in modern day times, and I still isn't even that modern day, was Red Bull Wake Open. But it was like, we would go to CWC, which you've been there, there is a cable lake full of 25 features. There is a perfectly groomed boat lake, which had huge rails in it at the time. And then you go in there in the back, and there's a bunch of different winch ponds, which I don't know why they were called winch ponds, because they were all System 2.
Yeah.
But all the rails were insane, multiple pools, all that type stuff. So we'd go there, and you'd have boat wakeboarding, traditional cable, features only, and winch park. System 2. And and then they would crown like an overall champion. They had a points scoring for for, you know, how everybody did in each event. And like CWC was a place I felt very strong upon because in the earlier times, there wasn't a lot of cable parks that were full of rails, especially like when we started doing these tours in Europe, you know, you get in these big cables and they'd only have like 5 features. Well, you know, CWC has a lot. And that was like my thing. Cause as I told you, like I was actually not, I was the kid on the dock when I first started riding cable going, I'm not a cable rider, I'm a boat rider. Like I was that dude. And then
everybody loves that guy, by the way, on the dock at the cable. You're everybody's favorite guy.
You know, roll my eyes at my young self, that's for sure. But no, features were like my thing. And then specifically, like I said, it was kickers because of the boat wake thing. So, and CWC had really great ones. But yeah, they do the ultimate category. And it was so funny because I remember Daniel, this is his very first ever pro event, right? Thai Wake Park wasn't even open, put it that way. So first ever pro event, he makes it into the finals. And as I was telling you earlier, it was head to head. So you had round of 8, round of 4, round of 2, super final, you know, and they'd have a runoff for third. So Daniel rode against Dominic Gers in semifinals. And Gers like fell or something. And I remember walking up to him. Gers was like, I don't know, man. Like, he just did it. Like, what? You know, just like kind of in awe.
What was that thing?
Yeah, and it was just like, what? I don't, you know, just like not really even having words. And the same shit happened to me the next round. The same shit. And I, you know, and the funny thing was when I saw Daniel beat Dominic and it was him and I head to head in the finals, it's like, done. Man, got another victory on my belt. This is going to be great. Like, so easy. I got this kid. No big deal. Wrong. I definitely got smoked, you know? And, but I will say this though, man, like it was in the grand scheme of things too. It was awesome. It was great. It happened for a reason. And I remember specifically saying to this kid watching that being like, yeah, he's young. I might have a couple more like shots at this of being able to take him down or whatever, but he's staying and he's about to be that dude. And the only reason why he wasn't that dude then, he hadn't learned like toe side air tricks or any of the shit like that. It was just a matter of time and it happened. It happened exactly the way I thought it would, you know, but he ended up being better than what I anticipated. Yeah. He took wake skating further than I thought. And he was phenomenal, but he was the kid that would like shove over the knuckle on every single rail. You know, he was good at flats tricks, but not like quite there. He was just like the kid that was very good at wakeboarding and could use his wakeboarding skills on a wake skate. Yeah. And then sometime a couple years later, he just was like, nope, I can do that, but I can also be good at flats tricks and let that excel into all other aspects. So yeah. And then same thing too, man. It only took him about 2 years after that till he started developing his own style. You know, he had his kid style back then. He was just really good and really tech. And then I swear it was about the time 15, it was about time of debut. Right before then, he started to figure out like his own thing. And it just went ape shit after that.
Yeah, I mean, his debut section alone is just
it's heavy.
Insane, dude.
Heavy.
So, okay. Who do you think is the king of the cable right now?
Well, I called Daniel the Prince for a long time, and he was. Daniel was absolutely the king and might possibly still be. But the thing is, and this is what's different, and I guess we'll back up here. Hold on. First off, do you know where and why I got that name? I've never called myself that, by the way.
Byerly.
Okay. So you know, how'd you know the backstory?
I don't know. I know some things. A couple 2-3 things.
Well, Byerly gave it the name. Aaron Reed was the one that like heard him say it too. So Aaron Reed like was like, well, Byerly tells you this. It's the, you know, like you go with it. So Aaron was the one that like made it popular or whatever. So I think it helped too having Daniel Daniel was in with us with Aaron too for a while. But yeah, it was Daniel for a long time and still possibly is. But my time and why it helped was there was only like, it was like me and Sam Collins and like Nick Davies and like maybe one other. So, you know, it was the same 4 guys in every final. Yeah. Donald Shelbrick, you know, it was the same 4 guys. So it wasn't really that much of a contest. Whereas like now, I mean, dude, we're looking at 6 people just on this roadie.
The amount of names you could think of right now that are really fucking good at cable is insane.
Yeah. It's unreal, you know, and it's like when I go and I like, for example, when I go and judge like Wake the City or LAO, You know, like obviously I love like what you're doing, because I'm same thing. I love doing the bets and putting odds and stuff like that. But the odds are so much like, it's more of a crapshoot than it was 10 years ago. So that's why I say there could be other names in the mix. I really feel like Trent is right there. And if with Daniel, but you know, the reason why I say Daniel's just not just wakeboard. If you're just talking king of the cable, it's Daniel.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk wakeboard, which is what it was when I was there, I mean, Trent's pretty rightfully earned that one right now.
Argue against that. Yeah.
You know? I mean, I just can't stop looking at this list because that other name, Pedro, just screams out because, man, he's one just the nastiest, man. He's just got it all, too. Like, he's one of the best mixes of tech with style, but his own thing.
It really is his own thing when he's riding.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And that last part that he dropped from Ty Wake Park, too.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Unreal.
And indeed,
man. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we talk debut. So we kind of teased it at the beginning, but you had Ender part in the debut. And the intro of this, you were opening up a bill, and you seemed visibly upset at opening up this bill. What was the bill? And was this an accurate representation of your life at the time?
The bill was a utility bill.
Okay.
It was a utility bill.
Was this a summer utility bill or a winter utility bill?
No, it was a winter
Texas?
utility bill.
Okay.
And to be fully honest, there was a water leak.
No shit.
So it was way higher. It was planned, but it was not full. Like, it was some acting for sure.
Okay, how many takes are we talking?
It was one.
One take?
It was one. Yeah, it was one.
One take, Tommy. Okay.
But it was. I was not happy about it for sure, because it was like a leaky toilet or something. Like, it was like something on like my own behalf. It wasn't like I had like it wasn't like a pipe broke or something like that. It was something on my behalf. Like, don't be an idiot. But you know, when you leave out of town for weeks at a time, and if you don't have everything buttoned up at your house, shit like that adds up, right? That's what that was. But no, it's just, I think overall, you know, different time frame in life now, but like, man, I've always been on my own when it comes to a lot of these things. Like, it's always kind of been a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I've never had anything given to me. Like, man, I have a phenomenal, like, man, my mom, my dad, phenomenal family upbringing, my brother, but you know, like, we never grew up wealthy. We never had, like, I never had a boat till Axis, you know? So it was just like always having to work for things. Like, wakeboarding paid for my college. Wakeboarding paid for my degree. So it's just like I've always just had to work for it. And part of that also comes too is I was never an athlete of any sort that was just good at something. The only reason if I was remotely good at anything was because I just busted my ass. Was not really all that great at football. Like, even these like casual like hobby things, you want to talk like spike ball or like, you know, pickleball, like shit like that I love playing now. The only reason I might even be halfway considerable, like decent at something, not even good, is just because I practice and I've done it. And it was the same thing with wakeboarding. Like, I never had that moment because I've done it since, I count 1994 as the year that I've done it. So we're looking at 30 years, right? But I learned to do it for them. But you think about it, I just didn't have like one entire like year like most athletes are like, well, I was good, and then I went from good to pro. You know, where I just got good. I went and just took steps every
chunk
year.
at a time.
You know, so you think about it, it was like I was 25 years old when I won the ROTY, and I mean, that 25 to 30 was the better half of my career. And you think that's like later on, you know, because it just wasn't like when I was probably in better shape at 21, but was not as good. You know, it was just like, it just constant repetition. And like, I was pretty obsessive about it. I think we all are. I think you have to be in order to be professional at something. It requires an obsession. But like, my rule of thumb was, if I was not traveling, I rode every day, every single day. I would at least the cable. And every time, like the whole time I was in college, when I was riding behind the boat, which is the lake that I currently ride on now, the cable park was on the way home. So every time I rode boat, I rode cable that same day.
That's sick.
You know, but yeah, it was every day. Unless I was traveling for work or for wakeboarding, I rode every single day. I'm probably one of those weird people that might hold the record for most amount of laps.
Yeah, because
I don't know. Daniel might have
Grant,
me with wake skating or whatever, but or just maybe like most time spent on a wakeboard.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that, like, man, there's a lot of guys, of course, that are way better than me, but I guarantee you they spent less time. Guarantee they spent less time. I have a ridiculous amount of time. I mean, it was to that point where it's like, I remember right when I graduated college, when I finally had the time to actually like be like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I always enjoyed riding the late afternoon sessions at TSR, and I would ride from 4 to dark, from 4 to 9. Only break was standing in line to drink water. That's it.
Damn.
Every single day, unless I was traveling.
Yeah.
Or I was on the boat.
And what are these sets looking like? Are any of these sets like kind of taking a cruisy set, or are they always just working on shit?
I had such a good crew back then. Like we had, a bunch of there was a bunch of no-namers, and there were some well-known guys. Like one of my best friends and business partners, Brett Little, he was doing the same thing as me, but he was wake skating. We had Gabe Lucas. I had a bunch of other guys that operated the cable, and I was always tight with the guys that operated the cable. And what I loved the most about it was they were so in tune, where it was just always riding by, yell at me to do something. And I mean, lap after lap after lap, try this, try that, try that. And, it was having some eyes on me helped.
Yeah.
All right, somebody's watching, whatever, that type of thing. So we just had we probably had a group of 20 guys that were always just trying to better themselves. And they weren't just intermediate. So we had a really good crew, and that's kind of what we're missing back home now, a really big, well-diverse crew. And everybody had their own thing. Like I said, Brett was wake skating. I was trying to do the all-terrain thing. If you've ever watched anything of Gabe Lucas, you definitely know he had his own thing. Everybody had their own thing. Nobody was trying to rip on each other, but we were all together. And every time we'd meet just to ride the cable, TSR's 6 carriers, and there'd be 10 of us. So you'd always have somebody you're standing in line, chatting it up with, and then somebody you're riding behind. So it was a good mix, man. My friends definitely were a big push. I think it goes with anything. Get yourself a good crew.
Crew's huge. Crew's super huge. And I want to talk about that in Texas in a little bit. But so in the debut, you hit a boat wake while riding on a System 2. Where did you get this idea? Because this is this is so sick.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's something I'd always dreamed about. I think it still could be executed better. I had heard, this is only rumor, from I think Mike Olson or Blake Hess, one of the two, but I had heard that when they built McCormick's, that they were taking a boat right when the cable went up, before they had any features. They had to take a boat, because that was originally a trick ski lake. Because there's 3 lakes in McCormick's, or Pirate. Trying to draw what it's called.
It's the Cove now.
The Cove now. Yeah, I was gonna say the Cove. So there's 3 lakes, and they only had to tear through part of the berm, to make it float. So anyways, they supposedly had to take a boat from that lake that I think is the second long stretch, and bring it back over to the water ski lake. And Andrew Atkinson happened to be riding, and it was like a Nautique 210 or something like that. And Andrew Atkinson happened to be riding the cable, and he got to go behind this boat and hit the wake. And I'd always heard this, and they were like, "Yeah, man, he was going huge." They told me about this, and I'm like, "Man, I've been dreaming." I'm like, "This is my dream: hit a boat wake behind the cable, have this super high pull." So when we got a System 2 put in our boat lake, that was what I was wanting to do. Not trying to throw shade, but this isn't my thing. But the boat that we were using was not good for it.
It was an X-Star. Was it not?
The first one that we did it at was a different one, and that one too, but it just was not good for it. It was not good for it. And obviously, this is you don't get a boat to do something like this, that's for sure. But, I finally, when we were like, okay, we're in the right position. Well, it's a standard System 2, so it doesn't have the really tall towers, and same thing, as everybody knows, the system previous to now, it's the Gen 1 System 2 is just
counterweight
this.
or anything.
It's just really loose. So it worked good. But yeah, that whole thing came from hearing that a boat, and that's still to the day, I'm like, that was what I ultimately want to do, is hit a boat wake behind a full size.
Yeah.
I just, you know what I mean? The pull and the tension is more consistent on a full size than it is on a system. So yeah, had I got an A24 out there, A245, out on the fine lakes of TSR, I could have made it work. But yeah, no, it was pretty awesome. We ended up figuring out that actually going against the boat,
which is cool too,
made a better hit,
Yeah.
but it's really difficult because you have to time. Like,
You have to like pump into it and then
you did have to pump into it, but you got to find that right spot to start your edge, because think about it, the sweet spot behind a boat during that time frame is 65 to 85 feet, right? So you have 20 feet to guess. And this boat's going this way, you're going that way.
Yeah.
You have to find that exact same spot. So actually, the funny thing is that stuff for debut, I think, was the first time we had ever done it. And then after that, you can dig this stuff up too. When we did one of our years of cable stocks, Blake Hess called it Hybrid Wake. And we did a contest like that. And I think Bob Sovin won it, actually. And it was crazy. He was, same thing. Bob was like doing a full like ollie to jump into it, like into like the pocket. And he was sending these massive, I think it was a back five that he did like way into the flats. If that's,
well, it's every.
I mean, it is the flat.
That's the best part of cable.
Yeah.
Every trick's to the flats.
Yeah, but it was cool. But the one thing that I took away from it that was awesome is that you can't do on cable that we were talking earlier is you can't grab as soon as you leave something. There, you could.
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's because you essentially can't really do a grabbed back five or a real. I mean, an Indy tantrum blind can be done, but it's like Bel Air and it's real like whippy.
Yeah.
Those types of stuff, yeah, you couldn't do that on the cable. So that was like the big thing that was like satisfying from it, was that. So that was also filmed in about 15 minutes too. We were like super limited.
Yeah.
I think the driver was like only able to split away from so long. I had to drop the boat in, do everything myself, you know. And
it was sick. It's
cool.
Just such a shock of like, whoa,
yeah,
hitting boat behind the cable. It's sick.
Yeah.
Shake it up.
It was cool. I mean, I was down. Andy was into it for sure.
Yeah.
So, and Andy's a fun one to work with.
Andy's into it.
What's good about him too is he's one of those. He's a writer first. He's a filmer, so of course he's gonna shout at you like, "Do this" or "That's not good enough." But Andy's also like, he's very direct. He would also be like, "You look like absolute shit. You are not doing that," or you know, "We need to redo it. You're gonna if it takes us 30 times you doing this, you're gonna do it 30 times." Like he was a perfectionist, and at the time you might hate that, but when the end product comes out, you're like, thank you so much.
Wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah.
So did you see your part before it came out, or was the first time you saw it at a premiere?
Nope. Didn't see it. First time I saw it was actually here in Orlando, in Winter Park when we did the premiere at whatever theater that was then. Yeah, no, I couldn't get Andy to leak it to me too.
That. That's
and
good.
the funny thing is, like, Andy and I are homies. Like, we text all the time. Like, it's funny, as much as like we're like good wake friends, we actually never talk wake.
Yeah.
It was like sports stuff too. So
He's big into sports.
yeah.
All right. So you're making the debut in 2025. Who are you putting in?
Well, I can already tell you this: we got Rivers, Gavin, Trent, and Pedro for sure. I mean, does the debut just have to be Park?
I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna put hard rules on it.
I mean, if so, I want Derry.
Derry.
Yeah, definitely Derry's in on that one too, man. I'm a big fan. I mean, obviously, there's not a crew in wake that I'm like dislike by any means, but man, like I definitely Space Mob's got their own thing, like respect to them. So Derry's like, man, just everything I see from him every time is like always mind blowing too, man. Like,
yeah,
for putting me on the spot, he's one of the first names that comes about that's not on this. Obviously, you got to have a legend in there, and what legend is not more qualified and can produce is Daniel Grant.
Yeah.
So he would be like the only guy that would repeat
I didn't
if
think
he
about
was in
repeats,
like debut 2.
Debut 2.
If it's debut 2, we're gonna put him in there.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, man. I mean, that's what is that? 6 people.
Yeah.
Right then and there. So
You're there.
yeah, I mean, it depends on how long you want to make this flick. That's
What was the debut? 20-some minutes? 30, maybe 33
Yeah.
with credits or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah. Which is perfect, I think.
pretty.
It moves
Yeah.
fast. The debut moves fast.
Yeah, it does. Nobody really has like crazy long parts or anything, too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you got to think like Raph's part's pretty short. Nick's part's like super short. The montage of like Brenton and all the boys in North Carolina at Gyptopia.
Yeah. That's my favorite part. Favorite section is the
dude.
Gyptopia part.
Man, for me, it's Daniel or Hernler's part.
Hernler's part's really
Hernler's
good.
part and Felix's.
Yeah.
Actually,
But you just
honestly,
listed 3.
I know. And now I'm like, man, what about Nico's? Nico's
Especially
an
the
opener.
the kicker to kicker
Yeah.
back one. Oh,
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah, and that was like the closing shot in the teaser too. It was good.
Yeah. All right. That's Yeah, for being on the spot, that's a great list.
It's funny because like one of my best friends that she used to work for me, Erin, she actually ran into Nico and Andy filming that, and she knows Andy because of me, but she ran into him. She had moved to Indonesia for a year and randomly ran into them there at that cable.
Really?
At the middle of filming debut. Like she like hits me up and she's like, they're both like, yeah, your friend Erin, my friend Erin. She's this blonde headed girl too. Like literally run into, I mean, how often do you run to somebody out in the middle of Southeast Asia that you know, and you're not there for wakeboarding?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's just funny.
I didn't know that one was in Indonesia. Is that park still around?
No.
No.
No. Epic Wake Park, man. Yeah. It was a pretty short run.
Yeah. Well, it had some heat.
It definitely did. It had damn good features, man, for the time.
Yeah, it looked like a
too.
great park.
Yeah.
Great, like, surrounding area, too. Like, it was beautiful.
Yeah, you know, and that's one of the things that, like, I feel like we're kind of missing, but I understand why it's so difficult, but, like, a park in a metropolis area.
Yeah.
You know? Those are ideal, but they're rare and hard to come across.
Hard to do, too.
Yeah, exactly.
The land in the water, whatever.
But I'm like, man, that's the exposure we need, you know?
Yeah.
Especially in America.
Definitely in America. All right, so let's talk favorite cable you've ever been to.
Oh, man. You know, CWC's always got a special place in my heart. Thai Wake Park. I mean, I know these are the general go-tos.
Well, they're general go-tos for a reason.
Yeah, they are. You know, I went to Thai Wake Park, too, the first year that it opened, and, like, had, like, the most insane time. Was there with Dean Smith just randomly. Dean just happened to actually be there at the same time I was because there was, like, a Rip Curl sponsorship. We did a rail jam in downtown Bangkok too. Like it was insane. There's that, you know, Langenfeld's always had a special place to me too. Cause like when I went and filmed for Impact, you know, I'd go to each park and we were essentially filming at these parks because they had like a really beautiful or unique backdrop, right? You know, but like not really heavy on features. And then the whole talk was wait till we get to Langenfeld. You like features. This is a good rail park. And I get there and I'm like, holy shit, you weren't lying. Not only is there features everywhere, they're the best made at the time. There was no unit. There was no anything else. Everything there was phenomenal. And there's 3 cables at that time. There's 4 now. And there was no system either. And there was no like secret backlake system or that. And you know what? Since we're on the topic, I would actually even like bring up, I got to ride behind the first ever electric winch. And you know what? It's brought me back on here too. So we'll bust this out.
I like this. Pulling out Impact.
This video right here. This is, man, this brought me back too. So
we got a physical copy of Impact here for the listeners.
So this right here, you see this?
Yeah.
So this is a rock, you know, and if you've ever been to Langenfeld and the water has not been high, which I think this year when you went, the
water was super high.
Water was over this thing.
Okay.
So anyways, I saw this thing sitting out there and I was like, man, it'd be cool to winch it for my part, you know, but I'm like the whole time like, they don't have a winch or whatever.
Yeah.
If, you know, so I ended up asking, I was like, do you guys have a gas winch? And I think that was where I screwed up is they were like, we don't have a gas winch, but we have something. So they go and they're like, I'm like, okay, like we have an electric one that we made of cable parts. So I'm like, my mind's like starting to be like, how, why? They come out with a skid steer with a fork, like basically a forklift. And it's on a pallet, and this thing is like the size of this table, right? And there's a box, yay big, you know, 1 foot by 2, whatever. There's a box, that's a computer, and it's all sitting on top of this pallet, and there's a spool, and it's shaped, you know, in a spiral, right? And this spool is, I'm not kidding, it's long, it's a bit bigger than the pulley liner of a full size cable. It's like, it's no joke. It's like this big and it's in a spiral shape. And they bust this thing out, and sure enough, you know, of course, it's got to be like 220. So you got to have like, you can't just plug it into a standard outlet. So they have to bring like these extension cords that are like this thick around, you know, these massive like gauge extension cords. They get it out. Yeah, and the thing is, they have this thing programmed, and the whole reason why it's spiral is so it pulls you up slowly. It doesn't just go, you know, 1 to 100, and it's
freaking Germans.
It's not portable by any means, but it is an electric winch, and that's when we hit that thing, and I was like insanely sold. I was like, it was the smoothest pull ever.
I was gonna say, how's the pull?
It was phenomenal. It was consistent. It was perfect. So we did that shot, and then I went back to Langenfeld next year, like during one of my like European tours, and they had built this pool gap like there in between in the back, in like the hidden area. just this pool gap with a rail on each side and like same thing. So I got to hit that thing again with that same electric winch, and it's just like it was funny because it was almost like folklore. Like when I'd come home, like, guys, I rode this electric winch. You'll not believe it. It's insane. It's massive. It's the size of a freaking bedroom, a bathroom in a house.
Yeah,
it is, and you have to have a forklift to take it anywhere. But
it's amazing.
But it's the smoothest thing you'll ever ride. It's phenomenal. So
that's wild. I didn't know that backstory on that rock. That's sick.
Yep.
Okay, Langenfeld makes sense. I mean,
yeah. So there's that, and same thing like filming a video part there or whatever. But I think too though is like the Langenfeld thing has always stuck out to me as like one of my favorite parks because what they do there isn't just like the cable park. Like, man, if anybody's been there and they know the Seuss brothers and Carson, like their hospitality is phenomenal. Like, dude, I'd never met these guys before. I rock up and guess what? I'm staying at their house that night. They're so inviting. They go above and beyond for all the athletes. The park is full of rails. So what I'm just saying is it's kind of like a whole package thing. It's not, it's about the people. And that's, to know his credit, dude, and A at Thai Wake Park are the same way. First time I ever went out there, flew out there. Like I said, I stayed in Om's house and, it was insane. They took good care of me. The rails were all unique, like one of a kind. A lot of these parks just always have stuck out for more than just the park itself.
Yeah, and I think if you're an American cable rider, or even if you're a cable rider, anywhere in the world, obviously, if you're in Europe, you have a different view of what cable riding is.
Yeah.
But when you go to Langenfeld specifically, a lot of parks are like this, but when you go to Langenfeld specifically, it just feels different. It's like legacy. It's huge. It's everything you could ever imagine that a cable park could be and what you want it to be. And it's like still like kind of corporate in the sense they're putting people through, but it's also for the riders. Like
I'm glad you said that because yes, that's the only area I might say corporate, but it's still family owned.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these guys have always stuck to their core.
Exactly.
And the thing is, Benny and Flo both are former professional riders. So if you really want to do your homework, you can find it. You got to watch Big Time. Big Time's like a German park film, and you can actually find like a bunch of like Stefan Vollert is in it as like a tiny little grommet, but yeah, they did some like really cool shit. Like they did like a gap between cable 1 and cable 2. So a little land gap. This is like filmed in like early 2000s, like 2003 or some shit, they set like a rail on fire, so like
Classic.
at that time, this is like really innovative.
Yeah.
But same thing. It's like when you have this huge park, they push numbers, but they also give back to the people that like are truly into it. So it's a complete package.
Yeah, and it's just really cool to see and experience, and I couldn't recommend it anymore.
Yeah, those guys are legends, man. I owe a lot to those guys too, like the Seuss brothers. So shout out to them.
Speaking of Benny, he's on the Patreon. So thank you to everybody on the Patreon. We're gonna rip a couple Patreon questions here, and Benny's wondering. He's got kind of a two-parter, and he's wondering: was it hard to get recognized by the boat riders and industry for your cable riding? And how did this evolve? And, when did you feel like you got good recognition for your performance on the cable from, the boat guys?
That's a great question. When I first started riding cable, remember I told you I was that douche that was like, I'm not a cable rider, right? Because in America it had a stigma. It was kind of hated on. It was this is essentially because I think at that time, like OWC was really maybe the only park that had features, and I would kind of go to credit to say that like TSR was the second and KC the third. But the thing is like, I was just so into riding that it did not matter. I'm like, I don't give a shit if I'm hated on for dangling my body, because I'm getting better at this and it's making me better at boat. And everything's crossing over, whatever, So it was kind of funny. Like, yes, I enjoy air tricks. I used to only do them to get me by in contests because at that time, it wasn't just features. So, like, those were always – air tricks were my weakest link forever, So, yeah, but my thing regardless is just like, I don't give a shit. This is making me a better rider. I'm winning these pro-am boat contests and making money because I learned this trick on the cable. So, there was that. And then at the time too, when I was telling you earlier, like during the recession, boat sales were starting to slow down. that's when cable started to get its limelight here in America, started really getting a lot of light shined on it. So that helped. And then the rail side of things, we were fortunate, like I said, that TSR was like very open. Like when Blake would come to us and be like, all right, we're going to build a new rail. What do you guys think? Everybody draw something up. I mean, we came up with this like kink rail that was pretty wild. We had some really good stuff. We had one really bad one. I can tell you that. We did like this 126-foot camel rail that was an absolute disaster. But it's like anything, you know, like, I mean, I completely live by the motto, you have to fail in order to succeed, right? And this is a prime thing of it. You know, we had to build this pretty awful rail to know that everything, what not to do from then on out. So we built a lot of like really cool shit and stuff that was extremely advanced at the time, which I look back at it and I'm surprised. These are rails in the ground that are plywood on the side, you know, that like they tore your board up. They tore your body. I mean, if you just brushed up against it, man, it was like rubbing concrete on your arm. So, you know, we're lucky we did what we did with it. But, yeah, you know, we had a very feature-oriented park. So I think that is what helped get respect from the boat community. I specifically remember filming a part one time with, I think it was Norby. And I remember Rathy hyping it up. And I'm like, there you go. I mean, Rathy was always one that I always had like tremendous respect for. Like he was just a very aggressive rider and he ripped on a wake skate and he was the dude that would hit a handrail, you know, winching or whatever. He just kind of was that. And when Rathy, I remember him giving me like props on it, on a park edit. And it was like, next thing you know, the next year, everybody's riding the Monster Triple Crown. We got Bob doing it. We got Rathy doing it. You know, we got all these guys, Henshaw, all these dudes are riding park like a couple years after I was doing into this. So I think it was a combination. I mean, it's not by all means, I think it was a combination of, like I said, the recession hitting. So cable was able to put some focus, but the other part of it too was everybody's recognizing hitting this thing behind a jet ski. I'm not getting the same line, or hitting this rail behind a boat. I can't get the same line every time. And sometimes I fall off on the side or sometimes I pull all, you know, whereas the cable, it's the same thing every time. And I think that was when it started clicking for everybody too, that it was just like, this is the way to hit rails. Yeah. If you're not winching something raw, if you're not trying to go for that street aspect, this is the best way to hit a rail.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's a good point. And good question, Benny. And he's got a part two to this, and he's wondering, what would you do to get more beginners and new people to the cables in the U.S.?
You know, for me, one, and this is circling back to like what also drew me in to TSR, the crew that was there and the way that they interacted with the customers, man, that was one thing, same thing. Like I keep circling back and saying Blake Hess, but Blake Hess was really big about like your customer service, you know? And when you create that with these newcomers, right? These people that are first time, and you convert them into frequent customers, guess what? They're going to have that same outlook. I came here because I love these people, right? They were so nice to me. I'm going to pass that on. While I'm on the dock doing whatever, talking with people, I'm going to go down and help this person in line. And I watched that happen over and over and over, generation after generation after generation. And it still is out there, but it's not as often as it was. Yeah. You know, I just feel like the environment on a dock, because I know systems have, you know, or where the full-on beginners are at. And I love that concept because if everybody's in that same skill level, it's not as intimidating. You know, oh, guy in front of me just fell. No big deal if I do it. But when you get down to the main cable, that's a whole different area. Now, of course, in a perfect world, we'd have, you know, like a terminus set up, a beginner, you know, an advanced and that. But for those parks that don't, you know, it's just, I think a lot of it comes down to like that dock vibe.
Huge.
It's got to be very welcoming, and it's got to be welcoming beyond the employees. It's got to be a good vibe the entire time, you know? And I think give or take, like you kind of play to your clientele. In the summertime, man, you got to be as beginner friendly as it gets. Maybe in the fall and the spring when it's like school kids, you know, like high school and college, like particularly the university that's close to us, you can kind of turn it up a little bit. You know, wintertime, go for the diehards. The only people that ride in a full-blown wetsuit in America are the ones that are like, let's hack the park. Let's go all out. So, you know, it's like maybe make your park very seasonally oriented, you know? But yeah, I just, that was what drew me in and really made me love the TSR crowd originally, was the vibes that they put off and the vibes that were carried on by even a lot of the other people that rode there that weren't even good, that weren't that good at riders. They just loved being there. They loved being around that people, and they were very uplifting. Yeah.
This is a great segue into a guest question from Victor from Imondi.
Oh, legend. Oh, man. Him and his wife are awesome.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Victor out here at Imondi Wake Zone in Colorado. I wanted to share a quick little story about Tom. When I tried wakeboarding the first time, went to TSR, and after about an hour of face planting off the dock and not getting anywhere, I was pretty much ready to give up. I probably would have never wakeboarded again in my life. When this guy comes out of nowhere and helps me out, spends about 15 minutes teaching me to get off the dock and get around the cable and everything, and man, I had an absolute blast. Little did I know at the time, the guy helping me out here is Tom, one of the best riders in the sport. So just wanted to give a shout out to Tom here. Thanks a lot, man. If it wasn't for you helping me out, I'd never had a dream of opening up a cable park. I probably would have never even wakeboarded again. So we've done our best at our park to model everything we do out there off the way you treated me that day. It's amazing the effect you can have on one person in our sport, you know. We're such a small industry, and when there's people like you out there willing to help others and get people into the sport, man, it's pretty awesome. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you out here this summer. Later.
I guess it's my guest question.
Wow.
But that is just wild to me.
I can't
So
believe
cool.
I've never had this conversation with Victor about it too. That is awesome, man. You know what I feel like right now? Have you seen the clip of Jameis Winston where he's like, they interview him right before the blizzard game, and you know how he starts lighting up? That's how I feel right now, man. That's amazing, dude. Shout out that. Oh man.
I mean,
Legend.
that's just an easy reminder that, like, yeah, that's not going to happen every time you help somebody out. They're not going to go build a full-size cable park. But that is what happened. Like, if you wouldn't have helped out that day, or somebody else wouldn't have helped out that day, Imondi Wake Zone wouldn't exist, probably.
Much love for you guys,
that
man.
wild?
I owe you guys, man. Thank you. That is awesome. I mean, more than anything, of course, glad you gave wakeboarding a try, but man, what can I do for you? I owe you guys. I owe you guys, because you guys are doing so much for our sport, man. That's phenomenal. But thank you. That's such an epic story, man.
Yeah, and they're out in Colorado. It's Fruita, is that correct?
Yeah.
Where they're at? So yeah, obviously.
That's
full-size
filling
cable out
filling
there,
my
so.
bucket up for the day. So appreciate it.
Overflowing there.
Yeah.
Speaking of another park owner, we got a Patreon question from Chase Andrews, and he's wondering what your personal favorite contest of all time was.
Man, this one's a no-brainer actually for me.
Really?
Yeah. Full set. We're going to stick with this full. I mean, of course, like, dude, Red Bull Wake Open was one, but I want to stick with the topic. We'll just go with like how Chase is for specifically full size.
Yeah.
T-Mobile Extreme Playgrounds. I don't know if you know about this.
Nope,
Hopefully you
I
hadn't
do
even heard
not.
of it.
Never even heard of it.
Oh man, I think anybody might tell you if you just want to talk about like the production. T-Mobile Extreme Playgrounds. It was an event.
Yeah.
They did it 4 years in a row in Hamburg, Germany. And you would rock up at this park, Pinnenberg, and think this cable was built specifically for a contest venue. And it was an event. This is unreal. Like they every year, all 4 years, they sold out the maximum amount of tickets, which was like give or take like 10,000. Tiny cable. I'm talking like 5 carriers, but probably should have been 4, 6 towers. So real small, like you're hitting a stretch. It's like
My favorite.
if you're hitting a
cable.
feature, you're hitting it, and it's like Rayleigh cut to get back to the corner type thing. But yeah, they would have like a bunch of big acts. They had like Sublime played there one year. I want to say it wasn't they had every year they'd have like a big music act, which of course helped. They did wakeboarding, BMX, vert, and music. And they sold out everything, and it was beach. So like you'd ride in this contest, and the entire shore was just lined, and it would be like 15 people deep, you know. And like I remember like riding by and seeing people in the corner of my eye jumping just so they could see over other people's heads, you know, see what's going on. And it was just, man, it was so perfectly set. It was presented live on MTV Europe, so like we got, you know, loads of like exposure. Of course, like, man, talk about glory years. It was like, they paid for all your expenses, so your flight, your accommodation, the food was good, all that. They gave you an appearance fee. There, of course, was a good cash prize for it. You know, you got paid on site. And there was parties every night. Of course, it was like all the free booze you wanted, you know, and it was everything else that like went with it. Like it was just everything. The hospitality was all time. But of course, like, man, it was just great because it was like, it got a lot of eyes on wakeboarding from the spectator aspect of if you were there, and also because it was live on MTV Europe. And any of the guys that rode in it know that. They'll probably tell you the same thing. Like right now, like LAO is like my favorite full-size event, and it's great. Like the feature setup is unreal. Like the hack, the way they do it, you know, the night before where they hack everything so everybody's got the same practice time. You know, you were there, it was cold and rainy, and still there's a big crowd.
So many people, yeah.
Yeah, and it was always cold and rainy at this one too, but it was everything that went into it, you know, that was all part of it, you know. So that's why I say like Langenfeld is almost like the closest thing that we have now, but it's got its own thing, its own twist, which I love. But like, man, T-Mobile Extreme Playgrounds was unmatched. I mean, again, it was on MTV. It was live.
That's so cool.
You
Yeah,
know?
I'd never heard of that. Can't believe I hadn't heard of this one.
And it was like you'd have this dude, you know, it's just like what you'd think with this huge, massive camera sticking in your face when you're on the dock, and there's a big timer, you know, that like going off because like you had to follow a strict TV schedule. Yeah, you'd just be sitting there on the dock, you know, and it was intense. It was super intense because when you're following TV, live TV, like you don't have room for error, you know. And same thing when you're trying to focus on like landing a run, you got this huge camera just like in and out of your face, you know, and everybody's speaking German around you. It was trippy. And this is like before like GoPros too. When the first year happens, I remember they had this like waterproof camera they put on my helmet. Well, I'm sorry, not waterproof. They put this camera on my helmet. It's drizzling outside. They didn't tell me it wasn't waterproof. And it was like a 20,000 euro camera. And I'm riding. I do like 5 or 6 laps and I fall. Of course, I'm just swimming casually in the water to get out, and this guy just comes and lights me up. And he's like, that is a 20,000 euro camera. You just ruined it. You ruined the camera. You know, and just like didn't tell me. I'm like, it was drizzling outside. Of course, I thought it was waterproof.
That's crucial information to give somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was like, yep, well, we lost that feed for MTV, you know? So, yeah, it was just funny. But yeah, no, T-Mobile Extreme Playgrounds.
Okay,
if you guys know, look it up, man. Like I said, it's all time, and it's a pretty cool park, great facility for a contest.
All right. Speaking of contests, you've judged, you know, contests in your day. You've judged quite a few this past summer or past season, I guess. Do you think all judges should ride the contest setup before they judge it?
Absolutely. And I remember you and I discussing this at LAO, which is actually the only one that I haven't, because I see here's the difference between Tom, who's now in his 40s and 30s. I have no issue telling you I'm afraid to hurt myself.
Tom, you're gonna be fine. You don't have to do hard tricks on
There's
them.
only
You just
one.
gotta
It
hit
was
them.
just one thing. It
Which
was that
which
closeout
feature?
wall.
Oh, dude, come on.
Fence.
Would've
That
been
was
fine.
that was the one that like really like the rest of it I didn't feel too bad.
You cut into that thing, you'd be all right.
Yeah. No, that's the one. I wrote Awake the City. Yeah, anyways. No, I 100% agree. But I was scared and I was cold. And 8 years ago, I would never have said that. But I have no problem swallowing my pride.
What about
now.
this year coming up? You gonna hit it?
As long as there's something I'm not going to die on.
Dude, you're not gonna die, Tom. You're gonna be fine.
So, here's
I know you got kids, you got a wife.
Here's the difference now. There's so many tricks that, like, I still ride pretty frequently, but there's so many tricks that I never had bad crashes on that I am terrified of now. Terrified of.
The thing is, I don't think the judges need to do hard tricks. They just need to hit like the transfers, all that stuff, know the lines, like
yeah.
And then obviously what tricks are hard and what aren't. Like that's not the hard part. So
no, and I mean that's judging goes beyond that too, man. It's a lot of it's having to be like on it because timing can actually be a huge issue too. But no, I'm with you, man. I definitely agree. There was one time that I didn't, and it was really cold, and I'm a wuss now about being cold. So, but that does not make it right. Just remember I'm gonna keep coming back to what I said earlier. Just because I say it, and this is my opinion, does not mean it's correct.
Okay, how about this? Are you judging LAO this year? Have they tapped you in yet?
Pretty sure I'll be back. You know, it's like a scheduling thing. We're trying to line some other stuff up to
make it make sense to get over there.
Well, no. I'll go over there just for the event, man. Facts. You kidding me? Yeah, no. The first year that I went, I was to ride it, but yeah, second year, I definitely was like, oh, I might just go over here and surf, just because that one thing was right up next to it too, right up next to the surf pool. But no. I should be back. I mean, I've already told Benny I want to come back, and the same thing else.
Can we get a confirmation you'll ride the setup this year?
All right.
100% confirmation before the contest. You'll ride the setup.
Somebody's gonna provide me with a 4.5.
Dude,
I don't know anything. I don't know
fall.
anything.
There's no fall.
I'm not who I used to be.
All right.
And you know what?
We'll get you a wetsuit.
Let me tell you this. I almost fell one time at Langenfeld just riding during my prime. This is another good one. When we were shooting Impact, we set up lights just on the transfer box, right? Let's take you back, 2007. So we didn't start. We shot those shots that are on there. There's only like 2 or 3. It's like maybe 5 seconds. They're all shot after midnight, right? So we're there, and I could not believe, like, Benny and, we're setting up all this stuff. It's dark, and Benny and Flo are both like, we get it set up, lights are on. They're like, all right, just load yourself. And I'm like, you sure this is all right?
We got levers back then as we're dealing with?
No. It was buttons.
Okay.
It was buttons, but I'm like, so nobody's going to be in the operator stand. They're like, yeah, just don't be stupid.
Ghost ride the whip.
So I'm like, okay, this is like, I've dreamed of this. This is awesome. We don't ever get to do
A
these
little private
things.
session,
great, but I'm like, this is cool. This is really cool, right? So whatever, load myself, everything's good. Benny's just like, just don't be stupid. We trust you. Obviously, like, this is who you are. This is why you're doing this. So I go and do it, right? And I probably get like 2 or 3 hits. And I go to edge to tower 3. And
is this on the main cable?
Yeah, main cable, the main one that we did LAO on. I
Yeah.
go and I edge to go to tower 3, and I go to edge through the white buoys. Now, if that doesn't already raise a red flag, you don't do white buoys on the corners. You do orange or red or whatever color. White is for exit, which is always in between like 4 to 5, or your last stretch. So as I get closer to edge through the white buoys, I'm like, white? And I look, and it's a fucking goose. That's, or not a swan, excuse me, a swan that's like this big. And I, bam, like ollie over him, like last second, being there, right? Like completely ollie over him. This dude is pissed off. Chases me the entire backstretch. And if it wasn't for the corner, like I start looking, and I'm like, he's gaining on me. And this dude is cooking for me. He's coming right for me.
Goose get pissed.
Yeah. He was definitely pissed. And here I am, like, I almost shot a rope because it was either I was lucky at Ollie, because if not, if I would have ran into him, this dude probably weighed, like, no joke, probably 35 pounds, 40 pounds, huge ones. I would have probably tried to hold on and shot a rope. Had I, not ollied enough, something bad was going to happen. And I was just like, it was such a mix of emotions, because I'm like, okay, I didn't kill him. I made it over him. Cool. Oh shit, this dude's coming after me. Like, what happens when he gets to me? I can't let go, but if I hold on,
you gotta start turning back and forth.
You know what I mean? Like there's all this shit, and luckily, like, if Langenfeld, you got all this time to prep. Well, in my mind, I'm just getting more anxiety the further I go, So I'm like, oh shit, like, what am I gonna do here? So yeah, it was just funny, because that was the last thing I remember Benny telling me, don't do anything stupid. And here I am, unintentionally almost killing a swan and shooting a rope in the middle of the night, with no operator. So I squeaked that one by. Yeah. So just know,
that's a great story.
If you see white buoys anywhere that's not the exit way,
if you're not trying to exit, don't go through the white buoys.
there you go. Yeah. That's it. And when you go to Europe, you get forked for that.
Dude, that's the wildest thing, man. People, when I went there, it was like, you accidentally go through the white buoys, that fork's coming out.
They don't play.
It's black and white.
They don't play on that. That was
I like it. I like it.
I do too. I'm like, you want to be efficient. Somebody goes through that, you load the next person.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
I'm fully on the same page there, but you know what? You gotta be put in check to respect it.
Oh yeah.
Like, you have to be forked.
I'm glad somebody told me, because I definitely would have gone through those white buoys without knowing, and been like,
everybody does.
What happened?
It's like all of us do. It's the most American thing ever.
Yeah. Rules? We don't. Come on.
Yeah.
Rules? No.
Exactly.
All right, we got another Patreon question from Garrett Cortez, and it's a simple one: ketchup or mustard?
Oh my gosh, Bro Stock's coming back. I feel like I should just leave it at that.
Okay, leave it at that. Are you gonna be there? Obviously.
Yes, I will be there for that. Neither for this. For what Garrett, if you watch this, this is the only part you need to watch. If you just saw my face whenever you asked that, neither.
3 words.
Neither mayonnaise either. Let me just go ahead and say
You're not a mayo guy.
No. Actually, I actually hate mayo on a normal thing. It grows hair in the sun, by the way. But no, mayo is a big no. That's like my biggest thing.
Grows hair in the sun.
Yeah,
I've
no
never
mayo.
heard that before. All right, so we got one last Patreon question from Ollie Jerome. And he wants to hear about the era where cable contests were exploding in Europe, and a few Americans were spending time overseas. riding against the likes of Nick Davies, Dom Gers, Freddie Van Austin, Hinterberger, Sam Collins, etc. He's saying it seems like those events were huge. He's wondering, during this time, what were the tricks needed to set yourself apart from the rest of the field? And did any of the guys ever play mind games on the dock?
Oh, man. Okay, I just want to go straight into the mind games thing.
Okay.
I want to go straight in it because there's two of them that really stick out to me. And the first one was like my rookie year, whatever, first year Wake Park World Series. First off, Bernie and I are cool. Bernie and I are cool. But, like when you are doing the cable thing and you're the come up and whatever, like he's the machine. He's like the guy, right? Like, as far as like old school cable goes, it's Bernhard Hinterberger, the machine. So we're in Denmark, we're in Copenhagen, and we start, remember I was telling you all the finals were 3 rounds, head to head. So I pulled Bernie for the first round head to head. And as soon as I pull it, he's right there next to me. He just looks at me and goes, "Sucks for you. Looks like you're not making it through." Just like bold face too,
Respect.
And like obviously, like anybody, if you're kind of most times like, yeah, if you're talking shit to somebody, like they'll follow by a laugh or something like that. There was not that by him. He was just straight up, and it was kind of like, well, all right. It didn't work. It didn't happen, but he straight up like tried to do that. Now that wasn't so much a mind game. That's kind of, I think that's kind of how Bernie was. He definitely, like him and I think that's another reason we came like even better buddies down the road, like whatever, like it's just like anything. The more you get around other people, the more comfortable. Like I wasn't really that tight with him at the time. But the other one, the one that was crazy about mind games, and everybody knows this one, the heckler. Everybody knows the heckler, and he was so fun, like such a good dude, but Julian Cohen was king of that. And I remember one time in the finals in Abu Dhabi, he comes down to me and he's just sitting there on the dock, and he had just got finished riding. He was like, how good was my backside 7? And he's sitting there like firing off all these questions. He's like, "Man, I did so good during this." And he's just firing all this. And I'm like on the dock, handle in hand, ready to go. And then he looks at me and goes, "Oh, hey, by the way, your heel 9 is pre-spun." Bam, handle goes. I go right off the dock.
That's going to get in your head.
Got fourth, dead last and top 4 in that one. But he would do stuff
There
like
you go,
that,
Julian.
man.
Right in his head.
He would definitely smile and laugh about it, but I remember there was like one time too, I remember he did the whole, it was like, which hand do you have the handle on when you let go with one hand first or stuff like
before,
like that, it was funny. I don't honestly think Julian was doing it to like screw with people. I think that was just him being like giggling. I really don't think it was a mind game.
Whether it was or not, it worked.
That specific time, it absolutely did.
Was your heel 9 pre-spun?
Probably.
Yeah.
I had
My
to,
only heel 9 was
if
pre-spun.
not, his kickers in Abu Dhabi were like real flat and rampy. I needed the mega transition.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it anyways. If you look at like the TSR kickers
Dude,
back
those
in the
things
day,
are crazy.
you couldn't pre-spin on those if you wanted, but it was like hitting a double up. It had
Just
that
a
same
punch.
like explosion thing, So yeah, like the right transition kicker, it can be really good, but there's obviously like too much is too much.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
I like that.
But yeah, no, and circling back to like cable events too, it was Europe was always ahead of us on it. Like I would go, and when I was like on the come up or whatever, before I'd travel to Europe, I would watch videos of like the Nokia 1, and they would always have loads of people on the shoreline, even the contest that like Langenfeld would do, beforehand, all these different events, they always had crowds. They might not have had the features at a lot of these parks. Of course, not Langenfeld. They always had them. But they were always ahead of us on that, and still kind of are, man. They have always had crowd support. And when we started to get cables over here, and it was awesome, because obviously like the industry for the most part is like based over here. Not that doesn't mean all the money in it's made and everything else and sales and everything are over here, but because it's very global. But all these businesses are HQ'd in America.
Yeah.
So unless there was like a sales meeting or something like that, most people weren't going over there. So it was like, I think that was like kind of the reality of, okay, cable's on the come up, and you go over there and you're like, dude,
It's already established.
you got to see, like cable is king over here, and it is insane, and we need to be doing it like they do. And I still feel that way, it was phenomenal. I mean, my timing was lucky, of course, but like I was on the come up at the same time with cable. Like I felt like I got there and probably got the sweet spot. But with that being said, though, you'll talk with anybody, and I might sit here and tell you, oh, how glorious cable was and all this. Every athlete that really excelled has got their time. Their time was the glorious time. I guarantee it's pretty easy, you know, for Gunther to look back and be like, dude, in 10 years from now, Gunther will be like, man, 2023 was insane. 2024, you know, or I mean 2024 for him, but yeah, you know, like he can be like, it was glorious, and it is for him. Like he's crushing it, you know, like, or any of these guys. So of course I wanted you to, everything I'm saying, I want you to take it with a grain of salt, of course, too, because I'm like, who wouldn't think it's glorious if you're winning contests left and right, you know, and everything's awesome. But I will say, like, everywhere you went, it was like all the free alcohol you wanted, you know, you stayed everywhere for free. Everything was like, you were rock stars amongst a small community.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, man. It definitely was like, it was a lot of fun. And I was, of course, like the guy that soaked it all up too. I made sure to like have fun at every single event.
What's your, you had a quote, and I don't know what the quote is. It's something about,
Oh, yeah.
you can retake a class, but you can never relive a party.
That's
or
it.
something
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can always retake a class, but you can never relive a party. And, you know, yes, absolutely. Always had a grand time, but you got to think. Let's think of even deeper meaning on that. Like, you got to seize the moment.
Seize the moment.
You know?
Yeah.
It was, man. And I, for sure, like, I had a lot of, like we were chatting earlier, man. Like, I definitely, you know, coming from a broke college kid, and I'm going over there, and I'm like, all right, you're willing to take care of this stuff. You got a chance to make some money tomorrow, and guess what? You're going to have your college party tonight, too. You're in your perfect world, and you're not having to pay for it, so of course I was going to have fun.
Yeah.
You know? It was awesome, and I definitely had some, I think that it's like one of the most impressive things. Like, I was able to really send it and then send it the next day.
Just
You
keep
know,
on- keep
like it
rolling.
was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. And like the Germans especially know how to, man, I just want to say they just know how to throw. They know how to throw a party. They know how to throw an event. They're like, it's insane. Like their hospitality, like, man, I got to give them. And of course, like I keep saying the Seuses, but it's all of them, man. Like they're all such good people, and they're all so warming to everyone and welcoming. And it was like that through every single park, every event I rode in.
Yeah.
You know, I spent 3.5 weeks filming part of Impact there, and every park we went to, like, yeah, same thing. They were just like, they were over the top, just welcoming, man. It was amazing. Like, it is, cable culture in Europe is, yeah, it's something to, you know, come back from it and try to take try to take something from there that you incorporate it in your own place.
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
That's what I would highly recommend everybody. And that's not, I mean, of course, every park, like, dude, there's phenomenal parks that have that vibe in Asia too and all that, but I just mean in general, they've been doing it for longer.
I mean,
than
Mecca of
anybody.
cable is there, so it's like, you know,
Yeah,
makes sense.
for sure.
All right, let's talk setup. So you still ride, right?
Oh yeah.
You ride boat and cable still?
Yeah. So honestly, I'm like your dream customer is what I like to call it.
You be buying all the shit.
Well, think about it, man. I'm like, I ride cable. I don't ride boat really very frequent. And the reason for that is if I go out on the boat and I'm doing something by myself, I'm probably foiling, right? There's not very many moments that I have like time to go out first person on the water to go wakeboard and get calm water. It's not a lack of want. I just don't have very many opportunities. I have to trailer a boat too. So, but anyway, circling back into the setup thing, it's like I wakeboard behind the cable. I'll frequent myself to wakeboard behind the boat. I foil. I wake surf with my kids. Both my kids now can get up on a wakeboard. So here we go right here. I got a boat board. I got a cable board. I got a wake surfboard. I got a foil setup. I got each kid has got their own wakeboard. Of course, we're decked out all and everybody's got their own vest. I got a Coast Guard approved vest. I got a comp vest, helmet. Like it's the ultimate waker.
Yeah.
The whole family. You know what I mean? Like the ultimate waker. So yeah, you know, it wasn't really back in the day at CWC, it was the Ultimate Wake Championships, but really now I know why I won it. I'm the ultimate waker now. The whole family, we're all kitted up, man, you know? But no, for 25, I'll definitely be in that new Butterstick Pro redesign 152. So
You're on the 52.
yeah, 52.
Look at you.
I've been on 52 for a while.
Look at you.
And I will tell you this, and I'm not bashful about it. I was real against running a skinny stance, a narrow stance, right? Flex track saved me on that. And this is why I love flex track, aside from, of course, like, it makes the stiffest part of your board flexy. So you're getting the most amount of flex out of it, right? Like, that's the functional side out of it. But when you got somebody like me, I was like, all right, I need to dip back into narrowing my stance. Maybe not be all the way out, right? Every time I ride, if I just do it, bump it in a tiny bit,
Boom, 10 cents later.
next thing you know, I'm 12 and 12 and I'm all the way in.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, I never noticed a transition because I didn't just go one hole over, you know? So flex track was enabling me to do that. So yeah, but Butterstick Pro with some hooks. I've been a hook guy from day one. If you know about the Vantage, you know.
Okay, Butterstick with some hooks, and on the boat, if you were to take a boat set on a board?
I got a Unity Arrow 139, man, with some towels. Got that Sam Brown Brown setup for sure. All
right.
Yeah. I mean, I can keep going, man. I can tell you, I got rants for the kids.
Yes,
man.
all this shit.
Both my kids learned on a Dream, dude. I mean, I always rode a 155 Horizon, and I'm waiting to get a fuse lock set up right now. But my El Guapo is my board of choice when I'm surfing with my kids. That's the big boy, right? Yeah, that's like our longboard one. But I prefer it just because I have a whole nother body on there with me. So, yeah, all across the board. I still rock a Pulse handle from a few years ago, so, you know, still got that.
What about boat? What boat do you have?
Currently, right now, I'm in between boats, but my last one, I run an A225. A225, and big reason for that, though, is like, for a brief period, the lake that I was on, we were closed for a little bit, so I was having to trailer to like a wider open lake, so I was running an A24. Well, now I'm back on this like narrow river lake, so I wanted to size down on a boat, A225. I was fortunate enough to be one of the first ones to ride behind it and was like floored behind everything about the wave and the wake for a 22 and a half footer, man. And especially like, you know, I've always been, as I just told you, like, you know, somebody that had to work for everything, and like every amount of dollar that I earned was earned by me type thing. Well, that's where Axis like fits obviously my whole vibe anyways, man. That is, them and LF have been my two strongest partnerships from day one. And they're just, it even goes beyond like the product matches, of course. And I can go on and on about how great all of our boards and our equipment is, and how great every single boat that I've ever had with Axis, especially for the price. But it's also about the relationships. The people at Malibu Axis have been phenomenal. I mean, Rob Coram, who's, you know, works in marketing there. Rob and I traveled together for years on end when he worked for the WWA. I always actually brag. Rob and I one year did every inhabitable continent together in 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
6 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So we, you know, and that's just one guy that I travel with too. So, you know, Bryant Thomas did a lot for me too. Like whenever he was there too. So I owe a lot to him, but just everybody there, Ronnie, Nicole, like their whole entire team there is also just like, man, it gives me a lot of the same thing with like the LF's vibe, man. They've always just been great to me. Like they're great to my family. Like I love the role that I guess you'd say like an ambassador role that I have with them. It's an honor to get to go and do the photo shoot every year with them and get to, you know, bring my kids up to the mountains where they do the shoot at and be a part of it all. Like, man, it's, yeah, when you get to know it, man, like they're really, really great people, which is, again, I think this whole entire pod, I've just discussed like how great relationships can be and what they bring to the table outside of work and business stuff.
Absolutely. You kind of hit it on the head right there. So, I mean, I think before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to touch on or anybody you want to thank?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
we could keep going for a long time.
Yeah. The endless amount of thank yous though. That's,
you've already hit so many names too.
I was going to say there's loads, but I mean, I would just say this. If I ever took a set with you, boat or cable, if you ever let me ride at your park for free, stay at your house, honestly, anything, if we ever cross paths and we just communicated, I would definitely like to say thank you. Like, man, the amount of time that I've gotten to spend, and more than anything, like the best of friends that I have in this industry. And of course, I want to give a shout out too to like all the athletes that are, we'll just say in general, everybody in wakeboarding, man, because obviously like when I look back and think of especially Park, of where I dreamed Park would be at, you all have gone way above and beyond where I thought Park would be in 2020, we'll just say. So a job well done there, but it's also like, man, I want to just thank like all my athletes that I get the pleasure of working with every day. Everybody at LF, obviously Malibu Axis, and every single other brand that I've ever worked with, but every person that I've come across in this, like, man, you guys have all been nothing but awesome people. And then, of course, giving me an opportunity to talk. One of the things I always do, you know, I want to definitely give you a shout out too, and just for dealing with a lot of the shit talking that I've gone back and forth with you on throughout the years.
Luckily, we've made a lot of bets over the years, and for the most part, I come out on top.
Well, you do, but you know, there's one you still have not fulfilled.
What are you talking about?
There was one that I did. I think it was maybe, I don't know what bet, but I was like, I want the original "Oh Come On Man" audio back.
Okay.
It actually, and if you mind, can I ask?
Yeah.
So
I don't mind anything.
Well, what I want to know is, so obviously, like, that's what "Oh Come On Man" comes from, right?
Yes.
Like, I feel like most people don't know that. A lot of people in
I think you're probably right. So the audio, the "Oh Come On Man" is a segment on ESPN. Do they still do it?
I don't know. I always loved it when like Randy Moss or not Randy Moss, but
Booger has done some really good ones, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you know, it was like, I don't know if they still do anymore, because if they do, they only do it for Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
But anyways,
like
when "Oh Come On Man" first came out, those were all the sound bites.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense to me.
Yeah.
Right?
It's easy.
I felt like most people didn't. And the funny thing is, that's when everybody started accusing like somebody of being European. I was like, "Oh Come On Man." I was like, not a chance. How are you guys not seeing this? But
no way.
Why has that not reappeared?
Maybe it will. Maybe I'm waiting on a clip. I need a good clip for it. You got clips you've been seeing that you want to send my way and I can post?
I will say this.
I got some stuff saved.
I did just find, I found this out. I found this not that long ago, but I probably have about, I have enough clips to make a full part of stuff that's never been seen, like winch clips, boat clips, all that. I'd say the winch clips are like definitely worth viewing. The cable clips are like really good. Boat clips are but they're all like old quality.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
so
it looked like it was all filmed. It was all filmed on like, but it was all filmed like on a dad cam, but it wasn't, you know?
Why don't you put these clips out?
Because I suck at editing, for one. I would love to give them to somebody. I mean, I can give you I don't need to give you a hard drive. I can give you a freaking USB thumbstick, because it's like probably like 250 megabytes, because it's just
small footage.
Shitty old, I mean, yeah, it's stuff like that. But yeah, I just saying. But even circling back to that, the exit song, I see, that's the only thing I see kind of, it's a little bit of the NFL.
Mm-hmm. It's a little like a redub of it, or whatever. Yeah,
I'm just saying
copyright
that was
free, I believe.
That was one thing. Yeah, the NFL's big on that.
I haven't gotten struck, so we're good.
That was one bet you and I made at one point that I did request.
I'll fulfill. I will fulfill that. It is just the time has to be right. The clip has to be right. Well, it'll happen.
Are you going to start trolling again?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think you got a good thing going here that I'm assuming you don't have time for it.
You always got time to troll, Tom. Come on, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I feel like wakeboarding was in a pretty good spot there for a little bit, but maybe there's some sus clips that are making their way back out in the limelight that maybe need to be talked about.
Wake Siege had like this weird little quick comeback.
Yeah, Dylan,
or
maybe Dylan gave to somebody else and hopped back in or something.
Oh, it definitely went to somebody else. It did not have the same vibes.
Same flavor, yeah.
You know, but I feel like there's some people. Wakeboarding is Dead has been one that's.
Yeah.
Are they trying to? I mean, it's not your. It's definitely not the same sauce.
I'll tell you that.
I know, but
my shit would be way higher quality.
Or is it dark wakeboarding? Yeah, that's another one too. There's a couple of them.
There's a couple floating around, but I feel like somebody's got to do it proper and, make it funny. Make it funny. It's all just got to be funny.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I know you go back and forth with one of them.
With which one?
With one of those troll accounts.
How do you know? Because you're on the admin on it?
No. I wish I was.
No, you just looked at your phone when you said no, Tom.
I wished I was good enough for that. I wished I was good enough to do that. Let me just go back and circle and say the same thing I've been saying. Just because I say it does not mean that's right.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you know what though, man? I can't not leave out, of course, the thank you, like giving like my wife for sticking through my ass through my good years and my bad years. And my come down years. You know what? And you know what? I actually, there's one thing I will end on you on, because this is a great, it's a great story. Like I remember, I don't know what just made me think of this, but I remember, I think it was like 2018 or something like that. I went and did this seminar, right? For the WSL. And it was just about like building surf parks and like what you like to do outside of surfing, right? And these guys it was this third party company, and they're like hired to like do these seminars, and they take over and like get feedback from all these people. And one of the things they were like, yeah, we work with a lot of ex-professional athletes, and we help like kind of get them diagnosed, because a lot of them struggle when they're done being athletes. They're like, you see this a lot in popular sports, and I remember seeing this. I'm like, man, here I am, 34 years old, whatever, 33, whatever it was, I'm like, things are kind of going down, but I'm like, no, I'm not there yet or whatever. Right. This is like the most pivotal moment, I would say, in my career. I was at the Tomar Pro in Portugal. Do you know about this event?
Sick setup, dude.
Yeah.
The little bi-level type thing with the the river.
Yeah, like it's a drop, but the System 2 is ran across it
So
instead
sick.
of up and down, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was sketch, man, but it was a phenomenal event.
Yeah.
Like insane location, the wake, like as far as like wakeboarding fan, like ultimate, right? So I go and I ride in this thing, and they had practice, and one of the things is, so like there was a top pool, and all that was in the top pool was a kicker. Now, the bottom, there was like, they had a rail going down in the bottom, and there was only way to come back. There was only one way to come back up, and it was a kicker to a handrail. Well, this handrail that was sitting on top was exposed, so there wasn't a safety of any sort, and I was scared shitless, right, of this whole thing. And this is 2019. I've already got one kid, so things are just kind of like, thoughts are there. I'm like, so I'm scared shitless, and that whole thing's like going through my head of like, man, I can't hold my kid if I hurt myself, and I'm like terrified I wouldn't hit it. Finally, I hit it, and I'm good. I make it on. But every single time I was hitting, I was terrified, right? And this is in practice. So I'm in this practice session with Jake Palat and Gunther and this Portuguese rider, Guy, and he was in the same boat as me, as far as like, he was just really scared, right, of hitting this thing. And I was like, man, I was scared too, blah, blah. So we're at the very end of our practice session, right before the event starts. I fall on like trying some trick on the kicker up top after, whatever. So they take the handle, go back to him, and I'm just swimming up there. And I see him go off the dock, and he goes down this rail, and he has not gone down it yet. So at that point, I'm like, oh, he's finally doing it. He's got to come back up. He hits this kicker, slips out the back, lets go, goes up and goes underneath this handrail and takes the post of it to his ribs. Bam. I mean, immediately. So I'm in the water. So here I am. I'm not a medical expert of any means. I'm first responder. So I swim over to him, and all I just hear is the, sound of that. So sure enough, as I swim over to him and I'm holding him, it was so weird because all these like medics come over in kayaks, but they wouldn't get out of their kayaks. They would not get wet. It was so weird.
Motherfucker, what are you there for?
Yeah, and there was 3 of them, and the chief medic's up on shore yelling shit in Portuguese, and I don't know if he's telling me not to hold him a certain way or he's yelling at his guys to get in water. Well, I literally swim this dude over to shore, and they're immediately like, get out of the way. They take him, put him in the ambulance. Dude goes straight into ICU, emergency surgery, broke every one of his ribs, punctured like multiple holes in his lungs, like brutal. And I'm sitting here watching this. This is the last thing that happens for this event. And I'm sitting there terrified already of what just happened. That was exactly what I was not wanting to do. That was so my goal, normally like any event that I ever rode in, of course, was like anything. Like I was the dude that was either going to get last place in finals or I was going to win. That was the event. And you can ask Gunther and Jake, that I was like, I just want to make it out alive. I don't care if I get last place. I just want to make it out alive. That was my pivotal point where I was like, no more. And I still did like a couple like regular, like normal, like cable contests, but that was it for me. Like I was fortunate enough to have one exact moment that said, it's not worth it for you anymore. Like you've got too much you're responsible for. So point I'm getting at is just just try to think of me a little bit if I tell you I'm terrified of something at LAO, but I had an exact moment that it just literally was like, man, you can't go to work. You can't hold your kids. You can't do this. You can't do that. Like you're not just laying up on the couch, watching TV.
Yeah, we got implications here.
So yeah, so it was good, but that was, as a time frame, that was kind of like looking back, like that was the first start of me letting go.
Yeah.
You know, because like you battle for a while of thinking, oh man, I watch a video of somebody doing some epic shit. I'm like, I can fucking do that. But then when I go to do it, it just doesn't happen. And you fight this like mental battle of like, am I good enough? Am I not? I think I am, but I'm not getting the results, you know, because I mean, shit, me in my 30s, last contest I won was at 33 or 32. And every time after that, you still think you're that guy, but you're not.
Yeah.
You're not getting the results. You're like battling back and forth. And it was like a blessing in disguise of being terrified of what happened there, because that was just the sign of like, dude, you're good. It's not worth
Clean break. That's pretty cool. That it happened without like getting broke off.
It did. I mean, not to me, but I'm sad that it happened to somebody else.
I'm almost positive that's on video. I think a Peacock brother posted that video.
It probably is. They were there. And if you ever meet this guy, he's like still very present in wake, like whatever, but he's literally got this scar from like below his belly button, like all the way up to his chest.
Yeah.
And it's like a full inch wide too. Like it's gnarly looking. Yeah, dude, he's the nicest kid ever too. But yeah, that was it was a very pivotal point. That's when I was like done.
Yeah.
So hence why I say thing. Got to thank my wife. She stuck by my side when I got big-headed, when I got low-headed. She dealt through the highs and lows. Like, she is my rock, like, for sure. And this life is only good because of her.
That's sick.
You know, and my family, of course. But, yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to That's a good way to end it. I like that.
Yeah.
I was interested to hear that because I knew that there was a moment, but I wasn't sure what the moment was. And
it is, and that's my only other piece of advice is, man, like when you kind of get towards the end of that, like you gotta weigh. It's a tough, difficult thing to like, what is more important to you, you know? And wake was the most important thing to me for a while. It's like anybody, man. Like when you get an obsession with something, you sacrifice a lot of things for it, man. There's like definitely like weddings and stuff that I miss that I kind of look back and I'm like, man, I should have went. Like that was a really good friend of mine, you know. Stuff like that, there's moments, but because you're obsessed with it, you know, and yeah, there's a level with it. So anyways, yeah, you know, but having a partner is good for you. It helps you need to get put in check every now and then, you know.
especially you, Tom. You need to be put in check every now and
Are you
again.
kidding me?
Look at what he's
I
wearing.
need to be put in check on that right there. Like I said, but you know, I mean, in years past, you put me in check, but you know, here we are this year and last year.
Is Texas back?
Yes.
Texas is back. I will say Texas is back.
That was the one. Okay, I'm good. I can walk off this whole thing now. That was the one thing because I remember.
He flew here just to hear that.
That's it. I will. Man, you know how good I'm gonna sleep tonight.
You know what? If they get bounced first round, you know what I'm gonna say.
Oh,
they're back to not being back.
Yeah. You know, yeah. I got no rebuttal.
All right, that's fair. All right,
well, I got no rebuttal on that. But
I think that's a good way. I think it's good we wrap this up. I think you got to come in for a shop talk at some point next time you're in Orlando. We get a squad together. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude. I think that would be fun. But yeah, same thing, man. Obviously, appreciate. Thank you for what you're doing because this is what's making wakeboarding great. You know, like we need this. So tune in, give this man some more of your patron money. Give all that. Like we need that. And you know, as weird as it sounds, you know, it's free. Is liking, subscribing, and comment.
Look at you, dude.
It's free, and you know what? It works.
Free.
It works to the algorithms beyond my knowledge.
Look at the algo.
But that's what makes it pop up on other people's feeds is the interaction. And guys, that is free. So even if you don't have money, but you should give this man some of your money. But even if you don't, as long as you like everything and you comment on it, that's going to help wakeboarding. It's going to help blow up, and it's going to make Grab Matters even better.
Damn, I didn't even have to say anything. That's great. Thank you. That's huge. Yeah, I do really appreciate that. I appreciate you. And I mean, like I've said it before, but like this is nothing without the people that come in and tell their stories and talk about wakeboarding. So thank you for coming in. And I know you got a probably busy weekend ahead of you. So I appreciate that you carved out some time for this. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
All good. To the next episode.